It's never a Gormizer desk segment if we're not coming back to the desk with mid-break laughter.
I forgot to tell Shelly my joke about the beginning of that last game. I'll remember.
All right, you'll remember. I don't get to know the joke. That's only a Trelly thing.
You
know, it's not a joke. Exclamation point temple in chat. You can use that command right now, and it'll send you a link. You enter that giveaway, the Temple of You giveaway, and then you can win any skin in Smite. I'm talking Poseidon. I'm talking Archon Thanatos. I'm talking Snow Globe Geb, which is not the right word for that skin, but I'm calling it that. Use exclamation point temple in chat. Follow the link, and if you win, you can pick any skin in Smite. Pretty sweet giveaway, if you ask me. Gore, do you have a favorite skin that you're shouting out, or you got something to add?
Oh, man, now I'm Hebrew. That's my favorite skin.
Hebrew is a good skin.
Because Hebrew, like, that's the first. So the first thing I spent money on in Smite, God Pack. Second thing I spent money on in Smite, Hebrew. And so that one has maybe like a special place. I think like Caco Demon could be pretty good. You can get like Neath's gold skin. There's probably easier ways to get it. I think if you win a giveaway and use it on that, maybe not the best thing to do. There's a lot of fun ones. I've realized I still use a lot of old skins.
That's
though,
right, the old classic ones.
Which is maybe like a detriment to me because there's a lot of like really beautiful new skins.
Yeah. But you can, those are still out and available, and you can get those. So the classic skins may be the ones you use on that giveaway. Let's take a look at the bracket, though. We're getting towards the end of our weekend. We've only got a few sets left. The stage is set for this afternoon, our first best of 5 of this event, as the Eldritch Hounds and the Niflheim Wargs will battle it out for a guaranteed spot in the SPL. The loser will not be out. They will end up dropping down into the winners' final, or the losers' finals, rather, a bit later on. Up next, though, Gortz, the Gilded Gladiators versus the Kaolin Wardens. The winner will move on to face up against the Aru Scorpions. The loser, unfortunately, their road ends here. And so the potential losers' semifinal match, Aru Scorpions versus the winner of this one, crazy matchup as far as expectations go. As far as expectations go, all 4 of the assumed top teams still in the event.
I think that it's been, like you said, not only all 4 of the top teams of the event still sticking around. I think we're getting to that potential where, if we said coming into this, hey, this team, maybe they don't make it to the SPL, but they're going to play upset. A lot of those guys haven't been able to play upset as well as they wanted. The Wardens are one of those teams that so far, not only did we think, yes, this is a team that could play upset, based on what we've seen, this is a team that could fight their way into the SPL, right? So I'm really excited to see what they have, because this is by no means like there wasn't a single game this tournament, single set this tournament that was easy, but they are closer and closer to impossible, closer and closer to just difficult, hard to overcome, hard to truly win. But after the performances that we've gotten to see out of some of the Wardens, I think I'm excited to see specifically what they bring today. My eyes immediately go towards, Leon, because of the performance that he's had all tournament and because of what we've heard about the comms in the background. Tubahh, because of what we saw a couple days ago in terms of performance, but yesterday in terms of ban priority, as well as Joshy. Because yesterday, when Tubah's getting banned out, when you're looking at who's going to be the carry, who's going to be the one that's getting all these last hits, the Tiamat game, the Merlin game, absolute hard carries that come through. The mid feels really, really solid. And when you've got now 3 people that get mentioned, that's not even to bring in what Oceans and Slaaaash have done as frontlines. I think the Wardens have really coalesced into a very strong team, and that's going to be something that the Gladiators are going to have to deal with. I
agree. I'm a Wardens believer nowadays, Gore. They're on a streak. They're on a 4-game win streak, 2-2-0 sets in a row. You talked about the mid lane. Joshy, since that first set, remember they lost a 3-game set against the Storm, has died once or 0 times in the last 4 games that the Wardens have played. Good stat line there, and that's going to be a key to victory for the Wardens here today. Joshy standing by with J-Mac for the pregame interview.
Yeah, that's right. I got Joshy with me here to talk before we jump into the game and whatnot. Now, Joshy, coming into this event here for the Kaolin Wardens, kind of one of the lower-seeded teams, kind of seeded towards the bottom half. Now you're going up against one of the top teams. In fact, I believe the number 2 seed with the Gilded Gladiators. How does it feel as a team not only just making it this far into the event, but now maybe even having a chance to knock out one of the top teams?
Yeah, it feels really good. I think, obviously, on paper, you can see our names and maybe, it's not top 5, but we're top 5 now, so we're just going to play our game. I think day 1, we kind of trolled a little bit. If you look game 1, it was super clean, and then we like a dive down. But now we're back up on top on our game, so we're going to see if we can keep it riding.
And for you personally, kind of going up against, Snoopy in the mid lane now. Snoopy, up until just recently, had been down in the SCC. Not maybe necessarily in your lane specifically, was kind of playing into the carry role for a while. How does it feel kind of going up against, a tenure name like Snoopy up in your role?
Yeah, I think Snoopy is pretty good. I think he's shown a bunch of gods in this tournament, so he's obviously got a big god pool in this event. I think he's like multi-role players usually do play a lot of different gods. So yeah, I think we're going to be ready for him and see what he can do and see what I can do.
Now, we got to watch the Gilded Gladiators a little bit earlier on this week and had a really good start up against the Elder Towns, but then kind of fell apart towards the end. Do you think that maybe some of that still kind of lingering in their minds and maybe can possibly bring an advantage to your team in this set?
Yeah, when we was watching that yesterday, I thought they were really disciplined for the first 20 minutes. Like they were on their farm game. Everyone was playing really well, and then I don't know who's shot calling, but it looks like their discipline kind of went out the window. So maybe that can be an advantage for us as well.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe a little bit of fun question for you here. I'll kind of give it as a two-part. First part of that, as a mid laner, you get to play a lot of mages, sometimes hunters, assassins. You get a lot of gods that kind of get to flex into your role. Of all those gods, maybe what's your favorite skin of any of those gods that you get to play?
I think I love the RuneScape skins, even though my team I'm in the scrims and they hear the RuneScape going off and they're like, bro, you need to change skins, but it's pretty fun skin. You get to wear capes and stuff. It's pretty good.
And now of that, with our temple promotion going on, if you win that one, you get to pick any skin in the game that you don't already have. So of the skins you don't have, if you were to win the temple, what would be the one skin that you pick out?
One skin, maybe Poseidon. I think Poseidon's probably a good shout, yeah.
No, I think it's a good shout there. Well, Joshy, I wish you best of luck in your games. Good luck out there. We'll throw it back over to the desk. Keep it going.
And I think there's some important information to take away there from that interview, Gore, where Joshy and this Kaolin Wardens team, they realize that the Gladiators are opponents. I mean, very clean cut. However, maybe down the stretch in a couple of the Gladiators games yesterday, they felt like some openings that could be exploited and not an unbeatable opponent.
I mean, and I think even Inbound acknowledged it on Twitter afterward, where it's just kind of like, oof, some of the calls towards the end of the game, towards the end of the set, definitely started to maybe fall apart compared to where they wanted to be, right? And so if they clean that up, Gladiators are going to be a very, very difficult team to try and take down. But if they don't, one of the things that has been the strengths for the Wardens has been this shot calling, right? Has been their direction through a lot of these games. So really, I think what we're looking at here, and this is actually a perfect pivot point in my eyes to what the Gladiators are going to bring, is a lot of team, not just capabilities, but I think draft capabilities between these two squads. We know that Elleon and the Wardens are really good at shot calls, really good at sticking together, really good at following orders, for lack of a better term. And so I expect a lot from them in that kind of play, team play. But the draft is where things get a little more questionable to me. We've seen from the Wardens more comfort picks than anything. If you look at the Gladiators, what you've been seeing and what I expect to see is going to be a team that is playing simultaneously meta picks, simultaneously comfort picks, right? They're going to blend them together. Tubahh straight up said the other day he's not a Freya player, but you can absolutely bet if Dude Man Bro can pick it up, he's going to play it. He's going to bring it in. So I think that's going to be maybe one of the big variety, big challenges the Wardens have against this team.
It's always good to see Inbound up, walking around, smile on his face, clearly feeling good. And hopefully we'll boost the rest of the squad and Snoopy moving forward today, Gore. And let's talk about Snoopy before we pivot back to the rest of the team here, because veteran player for the squad. Got to be, especially when you're in the mid lane, you got to be an anchor for your team. But if you talk about pick variety, it's been there for Snoopy. Just this event, we've seen Ra, we've seen Neath, we've seen Set, we've seen Agni. So it's been control mages, it's been secure mages, it's been assassins, it's been AD carries. And in teams of past, the storylines have often been, all right, how can we get Snoopy into a carry position while he's playing AD carry? It's been a new identity over the last few months. Remember, he's played in the SPL in mid and seems to have taken to this role quite nicely.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it is something that JMac actually kind of mentions during the interview, which is that mid has become this multi-specialist kind of role where you're going to play mages most of the time. You're going to play burst mages, you're going to play damage mages, whatever, or ability damage mages, like all around, top to bottom, that's going to be most of what your bread and butter is. But also sometimes you're going to have to play hunters. And sometimes those hunters are ability-based like this Neath. Sometimes those hunters are very much auto-attackers. Sometimes you're playing the On-Her. Sometimes you're playing the Uller. Sometimes you're playing assassins, right? You have to play a little bit of everything if you're in mid. So I think it's become this role where, yeah, you could probably be a little less nuanced. You could probably be just a good mage player and have that work out. But having someone like Snoopy, who has played 2 roles competitively, right? Both in the SPL at this point, mid and carry, but has played around with all sorts of these gods, has showcased, proven their talent on all variety of classes. I think that you have someone that, at least here for the Gladiators, gives you a very big comfort zone. If you want to run double assassin, you got it. If you want to run double hunter, you can do it.
Yep.
If you want to just have some guy playing a mage who's going to hit his ults, he can do that too. Like, he can do any variety you want to throw at him. So I think he's just a really good staple, and he's been a really good player in the game for years. I mean, since Season 1.
And Gore, I know we pivoted away, but we talked about Inbound a bit, and he was in the player booth, smiling, maybe feeling good for the rest of the team.
But here's the real question.
Yeah.
I didn't see the Crocs today.
That's right. I don't know what mode they're
Are
in.
they in? Are they finally? Because he did tell us, like, yesterday. He said today can relax a little bit more, and then he's like, the rest of the tournament though, that we're gonna have to switch them.
Oh, he said
and be in
relax
sport
was
mode.
yesterday.
So yesterday was
Got it.
relaxed. Today was supposed to be sport mode. So if I go in there, look, if we catch those shoes, and they're not in sport mode, Gladiators are throwing.
Crocs are making a comeback, man. Trelly
Well-
walks around. He's got tie-dye Crocs on. The boys are feeling it.
It's like this twofold thing, and this is the weirdest thing to analyze in all of this set. But it's like been a fashion thing, like that it has been brought
It has.
back and like seen instead of as tasteless as something that can be tasteful. What I really think it is that people just acknowledge that there's like you can just wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah, you can be
and, like,
comfortable.
stop
Who
caring
cares?
what your feet look like as long as they're comfy.
What you really got to worry about is what your gameplay looks like, Gore, and I think that's what the mental of the Gilded Gladiators has to overcome here today, because you had a 98% chance to win Game 1 yesterday against the Ultra Challenge. Remember, the Gladiators had, what we call it, 17, 18,000 gold lead, 3 or
Big
4
lead.
sieges against the Hounds. Could not convert that into a win, and then you end up dropping game number 2. But a team, when you look in the player booth, smiles, cool, calm, and collected energy. That's what you got to be after a day like yesterday. As we move into picks and bans for game number 1, you talk about the mental of the Wardens, Gore, on the other side. I mean, this is a team constantly deep in discussion. And the beauty of these types of events is if you get hot at the right time, you can go on a run. And the Wardens, you know, they played against the Storm. They end up dropping that set in 3. But since then, the Wardens pick up a win against the Sages 2-0. They pick up a win against the Tanuki 2-0.
Yeah.
Now they're facing their first, quote, top 4 seeded opponent. This will be a pretty telling game number 1 about how the Wardens stack up against a team that has been slotted in, has been seeded into that top 4. And draft priority-wise, against the Wardens, Gore, you're looking at Joshy and you're looking at Elleon. Those two have played all over the map. Joshy's had near 100% kill participation. Elleon has had near 100% kill participation in past games. Look at the 3 bans. Take away the Tiamat from Joshy, take away the Thor and the Naja from Elleon. But he's still able to get his Mercury.
Honestly, I really like this. The one thing I will highlight, and it's to grab part of the conversation you had there,
Yep.
which is not only is this a test for the Wardens against their first top 4, but it's something to maybe show some contrast, because the Valkyries played really well.
Yep.
They still, I mean, in Game 1, they were down so much gold so quickly from what the Scorpions were able to mess up. That's going to be another big part of what's tested here for the Wardens. It's not just, okay, this is a top 4 team. It's what these top 4 teams are capable of. Macro play, playing in terms of farm, getting neutral objectives, invades, things like that. The Wardens, I think, have been a little cleaner on recognizing, and Leon said it in an interview, whether it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I can't quite remember. But he said it's still Smite. And so as long as you remember that, I think if you're the Wardens, as long as you're still looking for those opportunities, looking for that farm, looking for what you can on the map, you've got a pretty good chance here against the Gladiators. And starting things off with the Mercury, a huge pickup, a beautiful pickup for Leon. We have seen how this team plays around him, and we've mentioned he's a carry in and of itself. He's the shot caller in and of itself. Like, he brings a lot to the table. This Mercury, maybe it's not going to be the best levels 1 through 5, maybe not even 1 through 10. He's going to be able to get hands-on. But once that crit is available, it's going to shift in dynamic. It's not going to be, okay, I can get some autos out there. I can be your CC machine. It's suddenly going to be, cool, I'm going to ult him, 2-tap him, and we're out of here. So if he can get that level of play as fast as possible, no matter what farm it costs. I think that we're going to get to see the Wardens level up and have an advantage just in that pick.
Talk about getting the crit online. We saw Mercury in the last game that this Wardens team played up against the Tanuki. Bought Rage second item after a Golden Blade. Had it stacked in like 4 minutes. I mean, there were like 5 assists that got rattled off. A lot of them landing in kills for Joshy, who ended up on Merlin that game, 9-0-6 performance. Won't be able to run back the Merlin, and it's not going to be a Khepri that they paired with the Mercury last time, despite it being available to be Bacchus plus Chiron.
Yeah.
Which you would think would be duo from what we've seen this weekend. However, door always open for a Chiron mid.
Now, this is the thing that I think is, like you said, kind of important. It's flex, which gives you a lot to work with. The Tiamat, the Merlin. I mean, I saw people on Twitter essentially go back to like the King Arthur Cuchulainn days where it was like, oh my god, it's only ever these two. That's what we were starting to get, the rumblings of a Tiamat and a Merlin. It was only those two. I think even Shinto had said he just wanted to see something else. So I do like the idea that Chiron could fill that role. It's not like it's something outlandish. We've seen it a lot. Venenu likes to run it.
Yep.
And we saw Snoopy yesterday. We seen Snoopy in general playing some of these carries. So I really do think it has that flexibility. But knowing what Tubahh had said, and going back to his interview, part of me feels like it's him, right? Him grasping it, him holding it close to his chest, because he liked the idea. He said he's not a Freya player, and he liked the idea that he can hit the back line from as far away as he needed to be, right? I mean, you could get up in their face, but he's like, if I'm not going to be able to kill this tank that's standing in front of me, I'm going to ignore him, and I'm going to shoot past him. That's what this Chiron was able to bring to the table, deal damage beyond that. As well as, you forget about it, but like small amounts of heals, really good slows. He's got some decent like minor CC that he can bring into his kit. And so I think he feels really solid. If you're looking to get your players comfortable, I think this is the way to lean into that, right? Get them something that they can have some strengths on. Try to get that leg up over the Gladiators.
Well, we've talked about the Wardens a lot, as we should. I mean, it's an interesting double dynamic here where it's the Wardens who are the underdogs but with momentum.
Yep.
And it's the Gladiators who are still probably the favorites, just seeding-wise. Seeding-wise, the Gladiators are the favorites.
And player name-wise.
And player name-wise, but with recovery, with mental recovery needed after a 0-2 loss yesterday. So it's two teams with their previous sets going completely differently, but maybe on different ends of the expectation spectrum. And so the Gilded Gladiators roster, Gore, they've got a lot of win conditions here as well.
Their name is Kyrmi. You can just say it.
Yeah, their name is Kyrmi, right? And Kyrmi's not going to be able to play the Susano, nor the Thor, nor the Naja. Could be Camazotz for Kyrmi. Admittedly, that'd be a bit different from the setup/carry style jungles we've seen from Kyrmi. Been a lot of Hunbats, some Susanos, Mercuries for Kyrmi. And so the Susano taken away. Mercury picked by the Wardens. Hunbat's still available, and yet Kama could be the answer. Could be Soul Lane Camazotz as well. Still leaving something up to the imagination.
And I kind of like that, again, being able to counter it.
D.
Because right here, you could very easily have Scary go, actually, I like this into my lane opponent, and I want to run that. Maybe, like, Kyrmi, can you pivot onto this? Because we've seen Kama jungle, and we've seen it carry. Like you said, maybe it's not this hard-style carry that a Mercury is bringing, or like a Kali would bring, but it still can hit insanely hard, and you still have all that safety that you would otherwise playing a Camazotz. And so you're really in a good spot for the Gladiators, kind of utilizing your second pick position to flex as hard as you can. You'll get to see what the lane matchup would be. If Camazotz is isolated for solo right now, you can then say, yikes, I don't want that anymore. Or you can kind of curve further into it. And then you can pick up a jungler, or you can pick up a warrior. So it really is going to be, I think, a good shift for the Gladiators. The Ymir, I'm a really big fan of. We've seen it. Look, Inbound has definitely had some of the great Ymir games, some of the other Ymir games that we've seen.
Yep.
So it goes, I think, both ways. But I think what you had said is looking at the Gladiators, looking at win conditions. You've got a lot of good CC on this team already. Ishtar is one of the best boxers. If you're just going tier list-wise, Ishtar is valued way above Chiron for a good reason. I think is going to bring a lot to this. I think that right now, clear-wise, you're probably leaning a little more in favor of the Ishtar Ymir. Maybe a lot more in favor of the Ishtar Ymir. Camazotz, like we said, it has that flexibility, but the Huang able to bring a lot to the table. Some of these pushes that we have seen throughout the time since his release have been absolutely insane. And Snoopy, as long as he's feeling himself, look, if that's a skill shot, you know he can hit him.
Yep.
I think that's going to be something devastating for him. It just depends on what the Gladiators have to kind of facilitate that. His follow-up damage will be good. Ishtar follow-up damage will be good. But it'll be this, right? What kind of jungle damage do you have joining it?
Interesting. So Awilix ends up being the pick for Kyrmi. I suppose there's some opportunities for pulls on what the Wardens have drafted just for themselves. Playmaking style jungler. Kyrmi, win condition for this team, a big one. In a meta where junglers have been maybe one of the most important win conditions for the squad. We get our first look at the full 5 of the Gladiators, though, Gore. Does the Awilix at the end here surprise you, given maybe some of the other options that were online for Kyrmi?
Maybe just because it's Kyrmi, but also not because it's Kyrmi. Like, it's just one that isn't immediately in my mindset of, hey, Kyrmi loves this god, but he's played it really well in the past, and he looks really good on it. And it's also that, like what you said, there's not like a lot of immediate team synergy where you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to run up, X is going to knock him up for me, I'm going to get the pull.
Right.
But Bacchus, Baba Yaga, Nike, if they're retreating or engaging, suddenly they are in a bad spot if the Awilix is nearby. So it feels like a really good counter pick. It can deal, I think, with the Chiron and the Mercury pretty well. Mercury maybe, I don't want to say less so. That one's just kind of standard assassin v assassin. But the Chiron, you have decent chase down for that, you know, with his only escape really being that dash. You can chase him down pretty easily using Suku, using your leap. Plus, you can just straight up root him out of it, deal a lot of damage. I feel like right now what we've been seeing, especially with the power spikes, the builds in the jungle, Awilix is just a strong pick, and I think that could pretty much be said for most assassins. You've got a good damage amp, you've got really good matchups into this team, and you should, while you're not going to go like crit heavy, you're not going to be the 1-2 tap that Mercury is bringing, you're still a very heavy carry that your team's going to be able to apply, and if you're looking to shut down someone like a Baba Yaga, I would expect Kyrmi to be able to do so pretty easily. Yeah,
the Awilix versus Mercury battle is something I expect to see at some point throughout this game because of how mobile Elleon has been throughout the laning phase, specifically on the right side of the map. It's been one of the more impressive right sides that we've seen in this event, Gore. And we haven't talked about Slaaaash enough, I don't think, during this pregame desk, because Slaaaash and Elleon have paired together so well over their last few games. Think about how many times it's a simple blue buff invade that sometimes turns into a kill. Mercury plus Nike, there's an opportunity there for the Kaolin Wardens to maybe leverage some pressure early.
Honestly, that might be like the benefit of Scary D being the Camazotz, right? Because we have seen the Wardens have put a lot of focus over on that right-hand side of the map from our perspective, that solo side, short lane. Camazotz, until he hits level 5, yeah, he's going to be in a little bit of danger. But once he hits level 5, bat out of hell, I mean, if you might still need beads early on, depends on how some of the CC goes. You could probably forego it. You get ulted, you get grabbed, then you just ult and get on out of there. I think Camazotz is going to be able to survive a lot of those ganks.
It's our second knockout best of 3 of the day, and we got to start somewhere. Game number 1, kicking off between the Kaolin Wardens and the Gilded Gladiators.
That's right. It is elimination for one of these two teams after a best of 3 between these squads. The Kaolin Wardens have been down in the loser's bracket for the entirety of this tournament, just about it feels. The Gilded Gladiators just now making their way down after their loss yesterday. It's J-Mac, Miff, and Doug bringing the action for game number 1. And we saw this from the Kaolin Wardens before, where they tried to maybe get a 5-man gank onto somebody who came up and tried to throw a stray ward up there, but maybe, at least for the wiser end of the Gilded Gladiators, nobody going to walk up and grab anything there, so it'll be back to standard starts for the Wardens.
You know, I really do like some of the adaptations from the Gilded Gladiators in their draft. Looking at how they've built out here, previous compositions, JMac, were really built around late-game team fight. Let's play with Hunt bots, ultimate, get some standard mages, some late-game scaling, magical hunters as well. DMB looks best on standard hunters. I think that's the conclusion I've come to there. So getting him on Ishtar, a lane bully, I think a very smart adaptation. But primarily, I had concern for the solo lane of the Gilded Gladiators. Scary D historically has been playing in the Pro League, I believe, since Season 2, and has always been the sit on enemy tower line, proxy waves early game, very susceptible to gank style player. Elleon this entire tournament has refused to rotate to dual lane and is instead kind of formed up with Slaaaash into this 2-1-2 meta. I thought maybe Scary D could fall prey to some very early ganks, but Camazotz with Bat Out of Hell, incredibly survivable, high sustain, thanks to all of it inherent to his kit, Vampiric Bats, one of the major proponents of that. I think if Elleon sticks around solo for a real long time, could allow Kyrmi free reign on the map elsewhere. Whereas the Kaolin Wardens, they just got Elleon on Mercury, standard win condition for them, a late game hypercarry, and they always funnel the farm his way as well. I mean, this start, it has something that he has devised just to make sure that he's hitting level 3 legitimately at the 50-second mark.
Elleon will solo out the 2 camps on the left-hand side after doing the quadra-camp split in the right side jungle, which to me, I mean, we're a month into the season, and it's still mind-blowing just watching that start every single time. The dance with all the buffs dropping around, making sure that you pick up the right one. Scary D, not the early start that you want, but Slaaaash just doesn't have any cooldowns to continue to chase. Now Snoopy in danger. It's Elleon level 3 on the Merc. A crash out from Snoopy, a couple more autos.
Way.
And Elleon just walks down Snoopy in the mid lane for first blood for the Wardens.
Well, a lot of the analysis I throw out in the first minute seems to go by the wayside. Scary D under threat of death early on. And it's Elleon not in the soul lane, but rather in mid, just catching out Snoopy. Too far up in that lane. Have to play aware of the enhanced movement speed that shard gives over to Elleon. The 40% additional attack speed as well. Just massive burst potential. That level 3 start for Mercury seems to have caught Snoop off guard. Fortunately, Huang very safe. Once he gets back to lane, I don't think he falls prey to that again.
Beats by Elleon to get away from the freeze of Inbound. 3 versus 2. Inbound is low, but the dash is already down from Elleon, and the meditation through is enough to keep Bobby alive. But DMB gets his dash caught, and the beads are already used, but another wall comes through. And Inbound to save not just his life, but also his carries.
Elleon's flipped the script. He's in the duo lane, and we're only 2 minutes in. Finding pressure all the way across the map. DMB and Inbound going to be playing catch-up for a little while, at least in the HP pool. That gives over a great opportunity to Tubahh and Oceans to keep up their aggression. That Chiron now with Giddy up, a massive threat to DMB. Pull him back, no beads, no answer, no meditation from Inbound to keep him sustained. Leon, though, he's hovering nearby, locks eyes with Bobby. Now it's time for the disengage.
Wall is there, but Inbound needs more than just the wall. It needs to find a big freeze, but it's only on the one target, and that was Tubahh, who will pop his beads and charge forward with the rest of the squad for yet another kill for the Kaolin Wardens. Slaaaash going to lose out on his blue buff on a rotation from Kyrmi, but Kyrmi is only level 3 on this Awilix so far. Elleon, even with spending so much time in the dual lane, still level 4, and even going for a purple buff invade doesn't go successful this time. Just those lightning shots from DMB able to secure that one.
Man, a complete shift up from the Kaolin Wardens standard procedure. Oh, just an inverse, really. It still is side lane emphasis from Elleon. This time, though, around the duo. Tubahh has been left alone on an island for the majority of this event. Has been vacated. Oceans leaves at level 5, never comes back. Leon hovers around the solo. Maybe a bit of a pump fake, hiding the strategy, sandbagging a bit that duo lane throughout the rest of the event. Now up against the Gilded Gladiators, showing that they are able to diversify their playstyle throughout the early. It's on the Gladiators now to adjust. I'm sure they've done a whole lot of homework on this matchup, probably planning around Elleon to be around the solo. Instead now, it's all about pressure everywhere. Kyrmi, yet to get active, has hit his first power spike. Jotun's Wrath in first slot should give him advantage over Elleon in the fight. Certainly more damage output, the CDR, keeping that Feather Step available more often than not. If Leon now decides to, could hover the jungle. Golden Blade really is the I farm faster than everybody else item in the game. Just AoE autos, helps you out with mana sustain. Very important here. Could even just wait out for a little while, play around the neutral farm. Everybody on the Kaolin Wardens playing with a slight lead.
Maybe go for that hyper farm mentality, given that Golden Blade is finished up and he can clear so effectively, as you mentioned. Kyrmi, not sure where he's running around. Maybe just dropping a ward to keep side onto where Elleon is rotating through the jungle, as you do see that Elleon passed over a ward that Kyrmi had placed by. Unfortunate for Kyrmi, he's also standing on top of a ward, so Tubahh knows that he's lurking by. So Tubahh will have to sit under the tier 1 tower, though, with DMB and Inbound at his tower line already. That probably wasn't going to change just for the fact that Kyrmi was waiting by. Scary over in the soul lane. We were talking about maybe some of the picks that he would go, some of the build paths you could do with the Camazotz. He's going at least a first full item damage in that regard. You got to imagine Transcendence probably on the mind for the solo.
Scary D loves damage output in the early. Kyrmi hates what's happening to him. Caught out and locked down. Elleon affecting his 3rd kill of the game so early. And on timer to potentially look towards the purple buff immediately afterward. Look at the vision control from the Kaolin Wardens on the left-hand side. If they find another pick here, Gold Fury certainly on the menu.
Well, Oceans doesn't get the belch off fully for the stun, but another purple buff invade. Elleon will take that one cleanly. DMB expends the ultimate to try and secure it, but not able to get anything. Instead, Oceans will jump away, and on the right side, speaking of Scary D, he and Slaaaash having a little bit of a bout between themselves, but all the sustain that Scary D has in his kit just brings him back up to about 2/3 HP, and he'll be able to continue sustaining over here. But it just felt so unfortunate for Kyrmi. He had the jump angle, but the RNG that Joshy has on this Baba Yaga kept a silence pool right at his feet.
Just an unlucky turn of events for the jungler, the Gilded Gladiators. It's about bounce back now. Awilix, still very powerful, really good in the early game, can make up for a slight deficit so long as it doesn't get too out of control. This next item for Elleon, I think, would be the first major inflection point, the inflection in power ranking between these two jungler selections. Awilix cannot match the crit output of a Mercury, so gotta play now. Has some lanes you could really start to rotate through. In particular, Ocean's very susceptible to those ganks. The Dest did a great job bringing it up. Maybe not the most knockups on the side of the Gilded Gladiators. If Kyrmi wants to do it himself, it's really up to him. Maybe Snoopy, but that's a very small knockup from the Celestial Flight. Otherwise, you're just waiting on those leaps from the Kaolin Wardens. You're not really punishing Slaaaash. If he's got the ultimate available, that second HP bar makes it so difficult to actually shut him down. So instead, I think Bacchus, a decent target. Joshy, you can burn those beads. Otherwise, it's just damage output from the Awilix. I wonder if the Gilded Gladiators maybe decide to move in towards Sunder just to address Slaash's ultimate.
Well, Slaaaash being jumped on. Will jump away, but gets pulled back by Kyrmi, but so much HP on that shield, even at some of the lower ranks of that ultimate. And that's enough for Kyrmi and Scary D to back away from their attempted kill onto Slaaaash. But more cooldown in the kit for Kyrmi to try and come back and maybe go for that same pull in just a few seconds. Meanwhile,
good wall.
Left side, Inbound will fight a wall against 2, and will use his ult to immune the stun from Oceans.
Easy disengage now. Elleon continues his new playstyle of hovering around the duo lane. Any pick now could very easily lead to this Gold Fury, even potentially thinking about pulling it. Bobby should spot it out. Is pulled by the Kaolin Wardens, and immediately the Gilded Gladiators get eyes on it.
Elleon goes right on top of Kyrmi. No beads available. The knockup is good, and one more auto from Elleon. A killing spree for the Mercury. And Inbound with nowhere to go. No ultimate to save him. It's a pick for Joshy. And the Kaolin Wardens up 5-0 against the Gladiators at only 8 minutes.
Man, this deficit in the jungle is now starting to get out of control. 9-7 up against Kyrmi. And it's simple. Generate threat around the gold. Force a response. Bobby had done enough. Maybe it was a lack of communication there. Doesn't tell Kyrmi that Elleon is just running him down. Kyrmi turns a corner into his death immediately. The damage follow-up just enough to send him to the grave. The Gilded Gladiator is not out of it, not by any stretch of the imagination. The gold has not ballooned too far out of control team-wide. It's generally just that jungle matchup that's really starting to hurt. 1,000 of the gold lead in Elleon's pocket. And we're what? How much gold in pocket? Pretty far up, I'd have to say. Really close to finishing up that rage. Just about 100 more for him. After this speed, Leon's going to pick up his pace even further. Hard to say that, right, considering the breakneck pace he's established already. Head back to base, all of a sudden, 30% of the time, you're just hitting way harder.
I mean, generally, the conversation around Mercury is, okay, once his rage is online, that's when the actual fighting starts. Once you go 3, maybe 4 items in, that's when we really start to see Mercury's get active. But Elleon has flipped that script entirely. A very early gank to the mid lane, gets him first blood, immediately follows up with that by going to the dual lane to find yet another one. Elleon has started this game off strong for his team. They've been rolling fairly well ever since. And that's given Tubahh and Oceans a lot of room to breathe over in this dual lane. Remember, we talked about how Tubahh was struggling in some of the earlier matchups in this week, not really having the performance that you would hope for out of this carry, but has made some change-ups to his god pool just in this tournament alone, going to this Chiron to deal with some of those backliners and kind of ignore the front line running at him.
Ignores the meta as well. He's just about the only one playing Chiron, these ability-based hunters with Transcendence in first slot. Likes to go towards Jotuns as well. Just clear waves, back up, use your ultimate to help out in the team fight. Not exactly one to lean in towards those auto attackers. DMB, the exact opposite mentality. Aussie in first slot, likely the Executioner in next. Means if it does come down to a boxing match, you're probably favoring the Ishtar. But Tubahh's been playing passive all week. Why stop now?
Elleon gonna get active on the solo lane.
He hits
maybe
hard.
about 7 minutes later than we would have thought. Dash will get the ultimate away from Scary D. So a little bit of safety removed from the Camazotz solo. And now the Gladiators will pick up the Gold Fury with eyes to Elleon on the right side. It's a call
Can't do
to
it.
maybe start the objective, but with Joshy by, Tubahh actually winning a matchup against Dude Man Bro, half HP on the Ishtar. And now with Elleon rotating back over, could be a great start up through as Snoopy is targeted out. Gets to this guy just in time, but a big crit on landing. Puts him just under half HP. And Elleon and Ocean's presence is enough to scare these Gladiators away from the Fury.
Snoop forced back to base. Inbound, forced forward, pushed back into the team. Isolated in the purple buff. Will lose his life. Credit to the kill for Tubahh. Back up to the Gold Fury. Do it all again. You don't necessarily need to grab the objective. Just force the Gladiators to respond. There is no response from the Gilded Gladiators. Scary D had started his rotation actually in that tier 1 mid tower, but decides without his support can't fight, and the Kaolin Wardens push their lead even further. It's not as if this is a composition from the Wardens that doesn't scale well either. Baba Yaga, just incredibly strong at stacking up, already has the Book of Thoth finished. Tablet of Destiny starting to get worked on as well. Bacchus gets tankier and tankier as the game goes on. Don't need to tell you what Mercury does. It's a whole lot of damage and a whole lot of crit in the late game. And with this expedited early, the Kaolin Wardens have set themselves up for success.
And Slaaaash on this Nike. So far, 100% win rate in the games that he's been able to play this one through, and you can see a little bit why. It's effectively nullified the Hunter of Dude Man Bro. I mean, you throw up that barrier, what's Dude Man Bro going to do up against it unless he wants to dedicate some of his CC to try and stop that one out? Joshy will go into the home sweet home in order to immune the freeze from Inbound, but Joshy is W-keying at 3 people, and all 3 of those will pay their respect to him and Oceans and back up towards tower line. Scary D's the only one who's really having any kind of remote fun for the side of the Gladiators, able to take down the first tower of the game over on his lane.
Scary D is not building tanky whatsoever. I thought it'd be Transcendence into maybe a Glad Shield second slot instead. Full eyes for damage. Jotun's in second.
Elleon, he's got beads, will use it, and that's just that easy for Elleon. A couple of crits, a major look to follow up, and a death on a Dude Man Bro. An 0-4 dual lane to start out the game for the Gilded Gladiators, and a 4-0 Mercury for Elleon to keep it going for the Wardens.
It's the reason Elleon's only been allowed to play Mercury the once at this event, now twice in this game. It's just a different pick for this player. Allows him to play so aggressively on map. One that he has so much experience playing on and scales so well into the late game. I'm not certain that he's going to get it again. I know it's a bit early to put your eyes elsewhere into the event, but this has got to be the last performance on it. 7 out of 7 affected kills, 3-level lead over in the jungle, and already starting to stack up that rage. Deathbringer not too far behind it. Kyrmi's playing the catch-up game. Just cannot have the same output as this Mercury. If the fight involves both junglers, you favor the Wardens every time.
If you're an Elleon fan, you are celebrating right now. It's the success that he is bringing on this pick, and you're hoping that teams later on forget about it. If you're up and not rooting for Elleon, you're hoping that every team remembers this game right here, and even the previous Mercury game going, maybe he never sees that pick again. Not sure if DMB actually spots Elleon there. It seems that DMB is just concerned of the wave that's being pushed up to his tower by Tubahh. A 2-level deficit, but Elleon will walk right up. Focus on the tower, but that tower's doing a decent bit of damage to him so far, so no gank on a Dude Man Bro, just consistently keeping him pushed back towards these fights.
Yeah, keeping the pressure up. It's been good for them so far. The Gilded Gladiators, though, at least find a small win on the right-hand side. Runic Bomb in the pocket of Kyrmi. Means if you so choose, could start to group up, maybe look towards these structures. Tier 1 mid-tower, generally the first place we see that bomb used. Otherwise, Gold Fury, pretty decent. We've seen teams hold on to their bombs. Really helps out around the Fire Giant as well. Nobody really going to out-contest a double bomb drop for secure. So the Gilded Gladiators, they're equalizing a bit. The gold lead hasn't grown in the last 5 minutes. Been hovering around that 2K point for a good while now. But we're starting to hit some very critical power spikes. Deathbringer now finished up for Elleon. Joshy finishes the Soul Gem. Oceans has become incredibly tanky with the Spirit Robe finished up too. So you got to think once this Fury respawns, it's going to be the Kaolin Wardens asking a difficult question. Are you willing to defend it?
Elleon slamming away at Kyrmi's health bar, but Scary Dude doing just the same. Elleon forced out of this fight, and now Oceans maybe caught out of position as there are 4 members of the Gladiators standing by. Scary D, not sure what he was trying to do at the wall there, whether it was go for a jump or it looked like he just threw an ability in.
It felt like he just threw an ability in the wall, but did not stop the back of Elleon. And now a man advantage for the Gladiators for only a moment. They got to use it now because Elleon is back at full HP.
Scary D, the hero, has turned around the fight on his own. Now locks eyes with Joshy, dropped low.
Joshy, though, in the home sweet home, firing some damage right back at the Gladiators. The Dragons do a lot of damage to Joshy, but he'll be able to get back, resustain with the house, and go back to base as well. That will peter out the fight. Same for Oceans, but he's going to actually stop his back for a moment. The Gladiators are moving up towards the Fury.
Elleon just hovering nearby with the Meiji look can poke out pretty severely here. And Slaaaash with the initiation, gotta be something you're concerned about on the Gilded Gladiators. Goes in with a blink, locks down 2, immediately disengages. It's a careful dance between these two teams. Advantage certainly still belongs to the Wardens, and Elleon seems to know it.
Elleon walking up
Oh.
almost by himself. That's 400 damage to Kyrmi right away. Oceans
Good start.
is knocked up and pulled back in by Kyrmi, but Inbound is the one out of position, caught inside the purple buff, and not enough HP. Tubahh low, has to dash away, but
Watch
Kyrmi and
Scary.
Scary go into the pit. Kyrmi finds one, but he will trade his life out. Two-Man Pro has used his escape for damage, and he will fall, but
Still
Scary
healthy.
D is putting out a ton of damage with his mid laner. It is only Elleon left alive, but a critical HP. There's no way he can fight against Snoopy and Scary.
Scary doing so much for his team. It is a weight off the Gilded Gladiators once this Camazotz is rotated in towards his first team fight. Scary says, defense will not help me. I have to do the damage on my own, and does it in spades, completely separating the engagement, finding his priority targets, even sacrificing his allies to use them for HP pools. And the Gilded Gladiators just better off for it. Finally, find a bit of footing on the map. Able to fight back ever so slightly and find themselves an objective as well. But they still haven't answered the biggest question. Who's dealing with Elleon? The Gilded Gladiators fought around him, ignored him. AoE damage collapses onto Mercury, forces him back. But next item, if history's any indicator, is Serrated Edge for the Mercury. That sustain will keep him in the fight a little bit longer, and then you really do have to figure out how you're going to kill him.
Now with the crits online as well between the Rage, fully stacked up, by the way, and a Deathbringer available for Elleon. A little bit harder for them to try and maybe deal with some of the crit damage coming through.
Okay.
But it's actually not towards the Serrated Edge right away for Elleon. Seems that he might be going towards Bloodforge instead. Gives him sustain nonetheless, but a little bit of extra movement speed to his kit.
It's a really smart adaptation and one I should have seen coming. There's no tank on the Gilded Gladiators. You're not worried about Bobby. And Scary D's full squish. Why do you need 20% penetration? You don't. So go for more power. Get yourself a passive that can keep you in the fight even longer. Elleon, I really do like what he's done here with this build. It's been serrated every single time he's played Mercury so far. Now, Bloodforge could really, really alleviate some of those issues I thought might pop up in the coming team fights. With that said, though, the Gilded Gladiators do now have 2 runic bombs in the pocket. And nobody on the Kaolin Wardens can challenge that level of secure. Doesn't necessarily need to be on the Fire Giant. Could push in towards these tier 1s, these tier 2s. Seems the Gladiators are playing with a bit of confidence now, and for the first time, with a bit of a lead.
And we saw what 2 runic bombs in the last set were able to do to just the Phoenix. A couple auto attacks, and both bombs dropped through, and the Phoenix is evaporated in just an instant. But with the game evened out, the Gilded Gladiators with a little more confidence now to move up. Tier 1 tower will not be necessary for one of the bomb charges, but Scary D lurking in the jungle could be dangerous for the Wardens. He was not dealt with in the last team fight. And there's no anti-heal to deal with all the sustain that Scary D has to his name as well. Not a Divine Ruin or a Brawler's Beatstick in sight. So it could be just a bunch of true sustain for Scary D that might just go unanswered in these next couple fights.
Fortunately for the Wardens, it's conditional sustain. It's really those passive pools that keep Camazotz available in these team fights. Vampiric Bat's, of course, good, but keep your eyes on his HP. Won't move too much here. It's about 15%. That's what, half an auto attack from Elleon? So long as Scary D is the first one out in the fight, maybe you're not so worried about looking at Brawler's Beatsticks or Pestilence or Contagion or anything along those lines. It's the Kaolin Wardens, who are now starting to push their way forward on the right-hand side, trying to control the rotations of the Gilded Gladiators. If you can get eyes on everybody, it simplifies your approach into the Fire Giant pit. Gladiators, though, don't need to be concerned. They've actually got very good vision on the right-hand side. They'll realize if Elleon starts his rotation. They'll know when Joshy starts to work his way over towards the right as well.
Scary D and Inbound doing their best to protect this tier 1 tower, and the Warden's unwilling to step up into the tier 1 to try and deal with that structure or remove it from the map. And it's just giving the Gladiators a lot of time to start their group up over the right side of the map. But remember, it's the Gladiators who do have 2 runic bombs in hand. If they want to try and get a counter push of their own, they can do just that. But Elleon is more focused on his own personal farm. Goes all the way to the left side, says, hey, if everybody's going to party in the right and nothing's going to happen, I might as well just go ahead and get my own farm up, get my own stuff stacked up.
Could be dangerous. Don't walk into this one, Leon. It's a 2v1. Lots of crit. Just make sure that vision doesn't go over to the Gilded Gladiators. Snoopy's a little bit more heads up there. The Dueling Dragons maybe forces out a relic from Leon instead. It's a reset back to neutral. Neither one of these teams wants to slip up, not when you're dancing on the knife's edge. So instead, play it safe, play it slow. Gilded Gladiators approach the Fire Giant first. Much easier to hold a defensive position than it is to fight into it, especially when you've got a strong kite composition. Difficult to fight into a Huang in general. Sit on the corner. The Kaolin Wardens will have to check it.
Elleon charging ult. Snoopy half HP already. Before the fight has even really broke out, a pullback in on top of Slaaaash, but Elleon has crashed through the back line. Massive damage coming from the jungler, but it's all been funneled right back into Elleon. It's a double kill for Kyrmi, 1 for Scary D, and it is all falling apart. The home sweet home will not protect Joshy any longer. Aegis does not buy him enough time, and Slaaaash can only hold that barrier for so long before the jungler collapses in. An unofficial triple for Kyrmi and 2 for Scary D.
Snoopy baits literally everybody on the Kaolin Wardens. Huang, one of the safest mages, so good at kiting the enemies, does exactly that. Gets up to the Celestial Flight. An ultimate from Kyrmi buys him even more time. Had the knockup connected from Slaaaash on landing, maybe the Huang falls fast enough, but instead, it's clean play from the Gilded Gladiators who force the Kaolin Wardens, who just seem antsy to take the engagement into a poor spot. And now the Gilded Gladiators, who I was almost ready to write off when this game started out 7-0 for the Kaolin Wardens, who have put themselves in the winning position. 3 towers standing between the Chaos team and the Exposed Birds on the left-hand side, or should I say on the Order side. Base defense from the Kaolin Wardens, not weak, not by any stretch of the imagination. Baba Yaga, I think very good in situations like this. But considering how cleanly that team fight had gone for the Gilded Gladiators, they didn't have to use some critical resources. I'm talking about 3 of them. It's 3 bombs in pocket. That's a Phoenix on its own. If you want to keep them up, you can't let them in.
Few towers still left standing, though, for the Gladiators to knock down before they can work on those birds. Tier 2s in both left and mid, as well as the Tier 1 still standing. And the Bastions, but Bastions will fall pretty quickly with the damage output that the Gladiators have at this stage of the game. And they will take their time slowly over on this left side of the map. Push up the minion wave, get those towers going through. And it felt like Elleon had a perfect line in that fight.
It's great.
I mean, he had a sonic boom that went through 3 people, got a couple of Aegis, a couple of beads, but as you mentioned, Snoopy playing one of the safest mages in the game just baits that Warden's team in. And unfortunately for Elleon, before he can get any further damage off, he is CC'd out and tossed around before he falls to the dirt. Now, it's up to a defense for the Kaolin Wardens.
Left side bird hasn't taken any damage just yet. It's Oceans acting as a wall, but if you don't commit to the defense, you will lose the structure. Blink and you missed it. Left side Phoenix gone. Only cost them 1 of their bombs. The Gilded Gladiators still have plenty of resources in the tank, plenty of time to play with on this Fire Giant, resustaining for inbound slowly. But we'll get them there shortly. And look at the defensive positioning of the Gilded Gladiators. They do not want to fumble it here. Take the scenic route back towards mid. Stay stacked up. Don't want to get caught. Elleon, this is his bread and butter. Loves to go for the flank.
The Oceans go in right away. Elleon charging up that ultimate. He'll crash into the 2 assassins.
Where'd he go?
And he's taken 1 of them out. Kyrmi is gone from the fight. And DMP now on the run with the rest of his squad. Slaaaash finds the slow. Inbound should fall down to Elleon here. That is a double kill for the jungler of the Kaolin Wardens. And a further charge up. But Elleon does not have ult. Does not have his dash to keep going. Needs the rest of the team if they want to keep this push.
Leon's target selection in that fight, just perfect. Kyrmi and Scary D, the threats in the back line stack up on top of each other. Inbound, Snoopy couldn't keep up, couldn't follow up. So Sonic Boom, sent for Peel, immediately erases Kyrmi from the engagement. Scary D, fortunate, bat out of hell, still available, gets him out of there. but at what cost? It still is a successful siege. At the end of the day, you got the left side bird, the most valuable Phoenix on the map. But you got to think the Gilded Gladiators, with how easily they were able to take that left side bird, would have liked to see a bit more there. Still holding on to 2 runic bombs, so they'll have further opportunities, but that's got to be at the end of this Fire Giant power play.
It's definitely only about 45 seconds left. Maybe a tier 2 tower at best for the Gladiators, but it seems that with only Scary D this far up by himself, big question mark, but no one on the Kaolin Wardens is going to step up to the Camazotz. Nearly full damage, only going for defense just now at the tail end of his build. A 4-0 and 4 for Scary. 4 kills each, or 4 for him and Kyrmi both. It's the dual lane that's really been struggling in these team fights. Really feels like a lot of the damage has come from just the assassins of the Gladiators.
And so the answer that Elleon devised of jumping onto the assassins, I think, probably true of the inverse as well. If the Gilded Gladiators can find Elleon on these flanks, these solo agent plays where he's maneuvering the map on his own, you remove a massive portion, maybe the lion's share of the team fight from the Kaolin Wardens. It's a dangerous position he's in, but the Wardens facilitate it with these hyper-aggressive wards around the Fire Giant. Leon's got pathing for free. Maybe send Scary D. If Scary D could just headhunt Leon, keep him out of the fight or poke him ever so slightly before the engagement starts, the rest of the Gilded Gladiators will just have so much more space to play with.
Well, speaking of Scary versus Elleon,
It's close.
decent sustain for Scary D. Puts him about even with Elleon, but a lot of sustain in the kit of Scary D. Bloodforge and Serrated picked up for Elleon now. And a startup of the Fire Giant
Look at the Titan.
for the Gilded Gladiators. That Titan is starting to get whittled away by the minions. Not much longer do the Wardens have to stick around and try and play around this Fire Giant. Someone's going to have to go back to base soon to try and deal with the damage. Inbound finds a stun on to Slaaaash. Oceans gets pulled in from his own leap. Low in HP, but Elleon has bursted through the front line. Inbound is gone. Joshy credit to the kill. And Scary D now trying to hunt for Elleon. Will swoop to the backline, but only one of those hits does manage to find the Screech Chapter. Scary D is low. One more shot would do it, but there's just no follow-up by the Kaolin Wardens.
Scary D is the hero that the Gilded Gladiators need once more, pulls them back from the brink. If Elleon disengages there, it's Fire Giant every single time. But back to base from Oceans should keep that left side Phoenix up. Not certain he can defend it on his own entirely. Actually keeps it within range of the Phoenix. Had he let the wave in towards his Titan, you're not nearly as worried about it. This could be a critical fumble from Oceans, unless Tubahh bails him out. That was close. That's game-changing, legitimately, had Oceans cost him the bird there. But instead, it's a reset back to neutral. Only one more enhanced minion wave that Tubahh needs to contend with. But with all that time spent, with 2 people having to dedicate it, it's the Gilded Gladiators on the fire, and it's going quick.
Slaaaash and Joshy are here. Scary D's health bar melting, but the Gladiators will grab the fire. Slaaaash will be able to leap out and away from the opposition. Seems like Kyrmi had already used his ult prior during that initial engagement to try and keep some zoning for the Fire Giant itself. So Gladiators now with all 5, with fire on their waist and a weakened bird in the left side. That was the only siege they were able to get off their last Fire Giant. They should be able to take that one with little to no trouble unless somebody has a unfortunate square off with Elleon.
Elleon does seem to be what's keeping the Kaolin Wardens afloat as of now. The damage output from him and Joshy, incredible, but Leon, I think, a bit more impactful on his when he's applying that damage. Almost always a kill. Joshy very good at poking out in these team fights. No runic bomb available for the Gilded Gladiators this time, so not nearly as simple a siege as it could have been. Instead, had to use it to secure the objective, the Fire Giant, for themselves. On the waist of 5, you still have faith in them to be able to execute a siege on the left. It would take maybe 2, 3 auto attacks from DMB to secure it. It's not an enhanced Fire Giant, though. Backdoor protections. Still something you have to contend with, so play with your minion wave. Elleon, hovering, doesn't want to show himself on the right-hand side. Instead, trying to poke from a distance, I believe has shown himself now. So the Gilded Gladiators, they've got time. If they can get into that Phoenix soon, they don't have to worry about the win condition for the Wardens.
Elleon gonna head back to base now with all 5 of the Gladiators pushing up left. Joshy able to find some quick poke against Inbound and Kyrmi, and Elleon charging that ultimate, waiting for an opportunity to be able to dive to the back line. But the Gladiators are paying a lot of respect to the Wardens. I mean, look how far back some of these players on the Gladiators have repositioned themselves after just Elleon re-showing back up to the middle of this fight. Scary D going to be the solo agent for this squad. We'll deal with the minions and head over towards mid to take down the tier 2 tower there. Won't stand for long. And now we'll have a 4 versus 1 split as we start going to the Phoenix defense.
Elleon distracted by Scary D. The win conditions for both teams square off towards the center of the map. Slaaaash decides to get involved as well. It's a slow push on the left, but it wouldn't take long with the bird to shut it down. And Ymir, so good on siege, could lock down entire paths.
Will find the freeze onto 2. Immediately, Inbound has got to go for the ultimate, and a lot of damage thrown his way. But that's a Dueling Dragons now used by Snoopy. Not going to find the target that he was maybe hoping for that time around. Snoopy charging up that route. Will find Oceans, who will immediately walk right back through Elleon to the back line. That is 2 instantly for the jungler of the Kaolin Wardens. Kyrmi tries to box up against him, finds some good damage. Snoopy crashes back in, and that's enough
Scary
to take him down. But Scary D has rejoined the fight. Oceans is gone. It needs to help out the rest of the team, and Kyrmi has done so
Still
much
alive
to keep this one alive. Scary D finds the double slash, the only one alive against the 2 assassins, and he's able to jump back into the jungle. With the weakened Phoenix, Scary D and Kyrmi should be able to push down this bird.
Scary could stop Slaaaash from backing. These are synced deaths from the Kaolin Wardens, and the minion wave is playing with Kyrmi. He's got the damage to go for the Titan here. A TP from Slaaaash will get him out, but the dot damage from Scary D shuts him down. TP's into his death, and Kyrmi's got the Titan.
Kyrmi, though, with only a couple of
No
minions,
wave.
and they aren't enhanced minions either from the fire.
Oh, it's
and
back.
with that cleave damage
15
that comes
seconds?
from the Titan,
Get in there.
minions don't stand a chance. You got 12 seconds until Elleon and Oceans are back. Scary D taking the long path in, so instead of going for the Titan, the 2 assassins will settle for the mid lane Phoenix. So now with 2 birds off the map, both assassins alive, the Gladiators will be able to back up and rest on the victory they've received.
It's a hard call to make, right? Go for the bird or try and attempt the win. But these fights are so back and forth. It is such a coin toss that I think it might have been worth the risk to try and attempt for the Titan. Scary D zoning on his own. The rest of the team on the Fire Giant burning. Scary D can no longer play defensively, has to back out without the ultimate, so instead rejoins his team. 2 birds down, Fire Giant on 5 once more. This time enhanced, no backdoor protections to worry about. Pyromancer on the map means Runic Bomb simplifies your next siege as well. And the Gilded Gladiators have only got 1 more avenue to increase map state advantage. It's that right side bird, the only thing preventing a completely exposed base from the Kaolin Wardens. But I'm not so certain the Kaolin Wardens are feeling the threat of it. Elleon knows now that if he just kills 1 more person, and it's a lot to put on 1 guy to get 3 from the enemies, but if he gets 1 more, that fight goes completely sideways for the Gilded Gladiators. I think really it's both now up to Elleon and Scary D. It's a 2-man game. If Scary D could stop Leon, great for the Glads. If Leon could do the same for Scary D, I think goes well for the Wardens. But maybe more onus on Elleon. Has to be involved in the team fight. Needs to be there to shut down DMB. In the 4v4, the Kaolin Wardens have lost the majority of the engagements. Whereas Scary D, sure, in the early game it was all him in the fight, but now that the rest of his team is caught up a bit, 6 slot in the build, feels like they can do enough on their own so long as Elleon isn't legitimately throat chopping them. It's a tough spot to be in, a hard call to make. And I don't envy these players to have to make it.
You even see Scary D has adapted to the crit that's been coming out from Elleon, a spectral armor in the last slot to try and deal with some of that. But now the Gladiators push up to the right Phoenix, the only one left standing. Scary D trying to loop around the side of the fight as the Gladiators keep up their push. Some stray autos from DMB to try and poke out Slaaaash, and he and Snoopy will do just that. Half HP nearly on the Nike, and Scary D hasn't even really joined this fight yet. Just been poking Elleon from the side. And the right side, Phoenix with no contest.
Ooh.
The Gilded Gladiators will grab that and an ultimate from Elleon. Perfect for the Gladiators, and they don't lose anything for it.
But the Gilded Gladiators have still got a lot of work cut out for them. Actually have to get in towards that Titan room. Anyway, pushed up on left. Going to be a little while till that helps. Mid and right already starting to leak their way into the base. The Kaolin Wardens cannot allow the Gilded Gladiators in towards the Titan room. It will burn incredibly fast, especially that Runic Bomb still in the pocket of Inbound. It's a very defensive positioning, waiting on the cooldown. That Sonic Boom critical. I believe Elleon may be frustrated with that poke Scary D put into him. But the off rip from that fight had to get involved, wanted to make them pay for taking down that right side bird, but just could not quite find it.
Minutes ago, we were talking about how Scary and Kyrmi both had 4 kills. Now 8-0 for Scary D as the Gladiators keep up their poke, but
Good
look
damage.
at the return fire from Tubahh up on the carries of the Gladiators. Both DMB and Snoopy have got to resustain themselves with Fire Giant, with whatever lifesteal may be in their builds. And now Scary D over to the left side bird. Disarmed by Slaaaash, who jumps in up against 3. Frozen immediately on landing. Kyrmi low, and Kyrmi gone. Doesn't have any kind of damage immunity in the kit or in the build to stay alive. And the Gladiators have lost their jungler.
Time to retreat. Got to get out there. Can't get cut off by Elleon. Sonic Boom coming up shortly. The Gilded Gladiators stay stacked up. Could fall back to the Primal Fury here. Fire Giant buff only had about 30 seconds left on it regardless. So reset back to neutral. But it's actually the Kaolin Wardens who come out ahead off that siege. It was left and mid Phoenix that were down. Right side was the only one remaining. Now it's left and mid up, only right side down. Easiest lane to defend while simultaneously playing for the fire. This slow play from the Gilded Gladiators, this inability to actually push in, starting to cost them greatly. The Kaolin Wardens starting to find their own equilibrium. Only need one more bird before they're back at an even map stake and start to approach the Fire Giant. I think even regardless, with Elleon pushed up so far on left, might even commit himself to the split push. Be very difficult for the Gladiators to take this fire without a bit of fight back from the Wardens.
And when I talked to Joshy in the pregame interview, I asked him, how do you feel about going against the Gladiators? They had a great early game,
On a ward.
kind of sketchy late game. He said, we think we've got some weaknesses that we can exploit in the late game, and maybe this is what it is. Scary D out of position, flopped on, and
That's
dropped by the
massive.
potion toss of Joshy. Elleon versus Snoopy and Kyrmi is not going great for the Mercury, though. And that is a 1-for-1 trade, but DMB out of position. No relic to save his life. Tubahh takes him out, but Kyrmi finds another pull. That's 2 for the jungler of the Gladiators. And now Inbound is fighting back. Used his ultimate, and with Oceans low,
got him.
Dueling Dragons by Snoopy. The Gladiators have found 3 picks for 2.
3 for 2. Joshy and Slaaaash still alive, hovering nearby. Fire Giant won't be easy to take down. Now with the 3 remaining members, Pyromancer's certainly an option. Kyrmi starts it up for his team. And Slaaaash has to hover. Needs to make sure that Fire Giant isn't pulled. These fights, ridiculous. Seems Elleon and Scary D have fallen prey to the hero mentality, trying to make it happen on their own. Lose their lives early. This time, though, and it's something we talked about earlier, the 4v4 generally favors the Gilded Gladiators. They've just been executing on it a bit better. The Kaolin Wardens, always chasing the fight. Snoopy, always kiting, have caught out the majority of these engagements. On reset, it still is a time sink. The Kaolin Wardens benefiting from how long that fight had gone on. Right side bird, really only 2 more waves they need to worry about there, enhanced, before they've found their complete equilibrium, before the base is completely restored. Gilded Gladiators, though, have slight map state advantage in that they should have control of vision on the right-hand side. The pit, completely under control of the Gilded Gladiators. The Fire Giant pulled out, and nobody from the Wardens stepping up.
Slaaaash was there, but just can't step in. The Gilded Gladiators will get yet another enhanced Fire Giant, but the question is, what will they be able to do with it this time? All 3 Phoenixes are now back up on the side of the Kaolin Wardens. Right side weak, quite weak, even from just respawning through. And the mid and left have regenerated to nearly full of what they are able to do so on a respawn. It really feels like in these last couple of fights that Scary D and Elleon, the ones trying to play the hero, may have forgotten that there are mages in the game, and we're fully 6 slotted, potions, elixirs, red buffs all kicking through. Snoopy and Joshy are slamming pretty hard at this point of the game.
Maybe Joshy a bit more than Snoopy. Top of the damage charts for the first time. Finally, it's Elleon not benefiting on the left-hand side. Snoopy as well, right on his heels. Just 3,000 separating these 2. But it's the Gilded Gladiators with every bit of advantage still. Relics all available, potions in pocket. And maybe a Hail Mary here?
Goes for Snoopy, does Slaaaash.
He's alone.
Inbound's going to keep Oceans through. Snoopy has nothing to deal with. He's sustained as much as he can, but did literally nothing to Slaash's HP pool. And instead it is 3 for none for the Kaolin Wardens. Tubahh was close to death, but not close enough. Scary D all the way to the right side of the fight. Not sure where he was during all of that, but the Kaolin Wardens benefit from it. taking down 3 and now pushing up mid.
Scary wanted to split the map. That's all he wanted to do. Keep control of the Kaolin Wardens. His idea was, I'll push right. Elleon's the only one that can answer me. We'll take the 4v4 on the left. But the Gilded Gladiators caught out too early. Snoopy separated completely. Now it's the Kaolin Wardens on the aggression.
30 seconds until the rest of the Gladiators are back up. It's just Scary and Inbound to deal with them, but Scary D is trying to fight against Joshy, who is just not taking any damage. Inbound is gone. Scary D versus 5. There's not enough damage in the world for this Camazotz. And the Kaolin Wardens hold out once more. A strong start, a shaky mid, but a great way to end the game out. It's the Kaolin Wardens coming out on top for game number 1.
Emotions electric in the booth there. A ridiculous game pace. Starts early for Elleon, does everything on the map. Eventually, Scary D joins the fray, completely changes the narrative of this match. It becomes a hero battle between these two, and one slip up in the late, one overextension on the left-hand side cost him everything. That is a heartbreaking game 1.
Gotta feel for Snoopy more than anybody in that last team fight. His team just left him to the lone wolf of Slaaaash.
Why was he so far up? Why was he frontlining?
Not sure, but Slaaaash jumps in, pops ult, Snoopy dumps the kid, and Slaaaash looks at him and says, cool, you removed my shield, what's next? Well, you got no HP left. And from that point on, and the Gladiators just fell apart during that team fight, lose 2 immediately after that.
I mean, it is far from clean from either side, I think. That was a scrappy battle, and I think a lot of notes to be made. You got to control that early game. Let's get Elleon off the Mercury, control those 2 things, make those adaptations. We could be looking at a game 3.
Yeah, I thought after yesterday's performance on the Mercury, we would never see Elleon on again. I've been proven wrong. Maybe this is the game that solidifies that he doesn't see this pick again. Congrats to the Kaolin Wardens for a game number 1. But they keep it up in game number 2? We'll find out right after this.
My goodness, I'm not sure anyone really knew how Game 1 was going to end up. There are moments where it seems like the Gilded Gladiators are going to run into the Titan room. They're going to close out the game. Then there's moments where the Kaolin Wardens feel like they're in control, but then the team fight goes sideways. Individual performances, misplays, missed calls. This Game 1 basically had everything between these two teams. But it is the Kaolin Wardens who come out on top despite all the Fire Giant advantages, Gore, to the Gilded Gladiators. There's a moment, and it's hard to, there's so many moments in this game that go wrong for the Gilded Gladiators. But I think if you rewind to, was it Kyrmi and Scary were the only two players alive on the map. They chased down Slaaaash. You got a minion wave going into the Titan room. Yep. You got 15 seconds on respawn timers. I wonder if that's a moment where the Gladiators feel like they maybe had a chance to win this game. Didn't take it.
Nope.
So that's a bygone now. And ultimately, the Wardens team fight just a bit better down the stretch.
Yeah, the best way I could describe this game, at the very beginning, it's very Wardens heavy. And then the other way, the rest of the game, right? After, I think, like the 8th kill the Wardens got when we started to see some fights back from the Gladiators. The way I would describe it dates all the way back to 1972, Dave, when they released the Pong, and everything was just going back and forth. That is exactly what this was. I mean, you would get one really sick play like that from Leon, right? Sets up the team, really does a lot, and then either Scary D or Kyrmi or someone on the Gladiators would step up and make an equally sick play, make it, all of a sudden this was a 2v or a 2v none trade that was in our favor. Now it's a 2v3 trade, things like that. So I think the Gladiators did a really good job of stalling, but that's what they were doing the entire time. It felt like stalling. Even when they were in control, it felt like there were those moments, much like you said, where it's like, well, you could have ended here, but would you have even if you went for it, and would it have been worth it? I think that what we got to see was the Wardens just playing really damn well. The Gladiators putting up a hell of a fight, but they're going to have to put up way more of one if they want to stop it in game number 2.
That final replay, Gore, I think, obviously the final nail in this game number 1. Snoopy only died 3 times that game, but there have been conversations around maybe positioning issues for this Gilded Gladiators backline. And a final replay where Snoopy is first in line all the way up duo lane while the rest of his team is following him, and you're walking into enemy territory. You're leaving Huang in a really tough spot. So unfortunately, out of 3 deaths, the final one was very, very impactful. Dude Bros had a pretty quiet weekend so far, 0-6 there in game 1. Kyrmi and Scary really felt like they were pulling the Gilded Gladiators forward. I want to focus on the good, though. It's much easier, much happier to focus on the good. And that's the Kaolin Wardens in this game. Despite some messy play, despite nearly losing the game on a minion push or 2 from the Gilded Gladiators, Elleon on the carry-style jungler finds a way to get it done again. The Mercury gets the rage stacked up nice and quick again. Sonic Boom was hitting the right targets. Tubahh had some really nice plays later on. And it's another good performance from Joshy. It really feels like this mid to right side of the map for the Kaolin Wardens
is phenomenal.
Something that needs to be dealt with. Now, Joshy died 3 times in that game, and I'll reference the stat previously. In the 4 games prior, they're on a 5-game win streak now. Joshy died once, 0, once, 0, 3 in the last 5 games that they've played. He's been positioning near perfectly. It's been a masterclass at times from the mid to right side of the map. And the left side of the map has played fine, right? They've existed. They've done their thing. They scaled up. Something's got to be done about Leon and Joshy and Slaaaash first and foremost.
I'd say Tubahh and Oceans did their job in this meta, right? Like that's what their gameplay has been. I think in one of those games you were mentioning there for Joshy, it was one of either a 0 game or one of the 1 games where Tubahh just absolutely pops off in those moments. And you know what? Sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes who cares? And I think that's what we got last game, which was, you get Joshy, you get Leon, Slaaaash creating a lot of room, Oceans creating a lot of room. I think that there's a lot that the Wardens have going for them. The Gladiators, on the other side, again, a lot of really, really accomplished veteran players that have been around the scene for a while. Some have even lifted the hammer before, right? Scary D is a previous world champion. And so you definitely have a lot of the work. You got a little bit of that performance. Maybe not even a little bit. You got that performance last game from Scary. Kyrmi stepping up. And Mifflin, I remember, had talked about it a few weeks ago when we were making predictions on this. He had said that like if the Gladiators were his team, his secondary prediction behind the Wargs, and he said because I don't care about any of these other names other than Kyrmi, and it is something that we got to see come true in that last one. But the question, I think, is going to be how the Gladiators adapt to what was there. I already see some changes that are going to be made immediately, right? Mercury no longer available, and since you're second pick now for the Wardens, that means you have to figure out your jungle pick. Not often, outside of like Mercury and maybe like 2 other picks, and if they're really just feeling confident, does Leon pick up super high in the priority. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see their jungle pick maybe shimmy a little further down the list. Definitely a lot of good options that are available in the jungle right now with Thor gone and specifically Leon's Mercury gone. I think that we don't have anything that's immediately jumping out to me. The thing I am surprised to see, and maybe it's just because only a couple teams have really been prioritizing it. We saw it banned, I believe, by the Scorpions yesterday when they were playing against the Wargs. And now we are seeing it here locked in first by the Gladiators, this Hades, which is something that at the time we had been talking about it for Aquarius. This could easily be something, and more than likely we've been seeing it in solo lane if you want to just focus on only competitive play. Season 10 is kind of a new playground, though. A lot of damage, a lot of survivability, a lot of good setup, and he can do all of it at once, right? I mean, it is something that Hades brings to the table that others don't. We have seen him thrown in mid. We technically have seen him thrown in support. Got to give a shout out to that game. But it has been a solo lane through and through. Very solid pick as far as things go. But we don't have, at least this week, a lot of the competitive intel on it, right? Like how it's been going in scrims, how it's been playing in ranked is always one thing. How it's going to do in this 5-on-5 environment, especially with how the Wardens have been isolating and targeting picks,
almost time to
I think is going to create a really big conversation as to whether or not this is going to be a successful pick for the Gladiators or if it's going to fall apart.
Goran, the people at home couldn't see, and you might have noticed I've been doing some
Yeah, you were working
calculations
away.
over here. In 5-game win streak now for the Wardens. Elleon in five games, in the last 5 games that this team has won, is 29,
Yep, that's a lot.
9,
That's a
and
little.
54.
Oh my god.
29, 9, and 54 in the last 5 games for Elleon. And if you want to, they lost in game 3 to the Storm, and he went 14, 5, and 5 in that game. So if you want to include that, you're at 33, 14, and 55 total as a 5-death game, but a 14-kill game. And a couple Mercury games in there, but Serqet and Awilix, both of which are available. The Naja and the Mercury both banned here in this game. So depending on where Leon wants to go, he's got some picks that are there in the back pocket. I think something we've got to talk about, Gore.
Yeah.
How the mental recovers at this point if you're the Gilded Gladiators. You had every chance to win game 1 yesterday up against the Hounds. You lose that, then you lose game 2, and then you come in here and you had every chance to win a game 1 against the Wardens, and you're unable to close out this game. You're on a 3-game loss streak. And this is why we talked about momentum, right? Coming into this set, the Wardens on a hot streak, the Gladiators a bit cold. There's mental at play here going into game 2, an elimination game 2, I might add.
Yeah.
Kyrmi in an interview figured this team would qualify in first or second. The rest of this team had SPL aspirations and expectations. 1 loss away in either game 2 or game 3 from that not being a reality for this team anymore.
And it's weird. It's almost simultaneous. I think that you have to let that weight exist for you, right? That pressure has to be there because you need to know you have to perform. But at the same time, you can't let it weigh so heavily on you that you're now nervous about what this game is going to be, right? Like it is a game that you have to go in. You know you have to win. But it's if you treat it similar to, let's just say, any other game, then as long as you can go in and play your best and get the win, I think that's really what the Gladiators need to focus on. Because otherwise, if the weight gets to you, it can crumble apart immediately. I'm absolutely flabbergasted. Not a single pick on that board so far has blown me away. I know we have at least one mod right now who's going to be losing his damn mind. Puch gets locked in. And I'm going to say there's a lot of, there's a lot of mages that are out there. And you know, I think I had asked Worst Turtle, like, craziest pick you had seen. We had started to see some Puch towards the end of last year, right? Like, he started to be on the rise. He's got decent damage. He's got a huge AoE ult that just says this is a no-play zone. Good luck. Technically, he has a conditional stun in there, but when you have someone like a Hades, someone like a Soul, the healing that is going to be coming out for the Gladiators, it can help with that. decent burst, super immobile. So there's a lot of benefits. There's some detriments. I am excited with the way Joshy's been playing. I'm going to give him the faith that I think he deserves and say I'm excited to see what he does with this pick.
Perfect timing, Gore, because I've done the math for Joshy in the last 5 games. Joshy has gone, I want to make sure I get it right, 28, 5, and 58 in the last 5 games. 28, 5, and 58 for Joshy in the last 5 games. And those are all 5 wins that this Wardens team has played. So you have to give faith, right? It's a pick we haven't seen yet this week. But a KDA like that, you have to give some faith to.
I mean, even when you factor in the other 3 games that the team has played, right? Go to that set prior before their 2-0s come through. Joshy's 5th on the KDA board for the tournament, despite the fact that he's got more games. The only people that are above him, one is Slaaaash, who's played the exact same amount of games, but the others have only played 4 games. It's the players on the Wargs and the Ducky from the Hounds. So you really do have, I think, a really impressive run here so far, knowing that Slaaaash and Joshy are doing so well KDA-wise, knowing that Elleon, I had done the math on the numbers you gave me earlier, but a 6.2 in the last 5. I mean, that's insane for what you are putting out. It comes out, I think he's around a 4.1 overall throughout the tournament with that first set. And that's the loss, right? So all of a sudden, you're looking at a team that has been on fire. I think, like you said, give them the benefit of the doubt. Plus, now you get them on the Awilix. I feel like you got the carries there. A lot of good CC on the squad for the Wardens as well. I love Maui's engage. Oceans has played this pick well in the past, so I'm going to give him some faith as well. I think that he has a lot of good setup, and as Mifflin likes to call it, it's very non-committal engagement, right? It's far away for the ultimate. You don't have to worry about it. Your hook, you throw out as far as you can. Tier's a little more committal, but really, really good in moments like this. The one downside that the team is going to be dealing with is that Cabrakan. Those walls are going to cause a lot of trouble. But if you look top to bottom for the Gladiators, this is a much squishier composition than what they've been running. Cabrakan's going to be the tankiest. Realistically, Hades is probably going to be quote-unquote the tankiest, but his health bar will drop fast. He just refills it insanely fast. Cabrakan is going to be able to kind of take that impact. But those walls, I mean, Maui can get over it, but Chiron can't. Tier can if he commits his ult, Awilix can't, right? So all of a sudden, you are looking at least 3 picks, 1 that has to commit their ult, 2 that maybe need the relics, that are going to be captured by this Cabrakan. So if I'm going to assume Inbound plays this at the level we've seen him do it in the past, they could just hard bully this Awilix and make it regret ever existing.
Well, that's what we need. We need to see some of that. We need to see some of the star power from the Gilded Gladiators now. And as much praise as we've heaped on the Kaolin Wardens, it's all deserved because of the way that they've played. This is where, if you talk about all of our talking points about veteranship on this Gilded Gladiators team and what they've done in the past and the world championships they've won and the pedigree that's on this team and the trajectory of their careers, things like that. A Game 2, an elimination Game 2, and to recontextualize all of this, this is a tournament to make it into the SPL. Only 2 teams of the 10 that are playing in this weekend will promote to the SPL. And so if the Gilded Gladiators lose this or win this and then lose Game 3, that's it. They can decide if they want to try to qualify into the SEC, but the SPL, unless individual players get picked up, is not going to happen for this roster this year. And so this is where, after now 3 straight losses and some really tough mental ones at that, the Gilded Gladiators need to regroup as a team and lean on one another. And Gore, I do think they've got a composition that's aggressive enough and potentially has enough damage to allow the carries to do what they want to do. I like the Serqet for Kyrmi. Love the Hades for Scary D.
Yeah.
And if Scary D runs back a Game 1 style of performance despite a loss here on the Hades, that could be a pillar for the Gilded Gladiators here.
And what I really like about this comp is that it feels more hold W, right? It feels more aggressive. It feels like something that is going to be able to just knock people down. It does feel like it could struggle a little bit from behind, but you've got a soul for that, right? Hades, it can be a little more iffy. Cabrakan maybe Everyone wants to play from ahead. That's the ideal world. But being someone who can who falls behind and can still play well, I think that's going to be something they might struggle with a little bit. The assassins should still be able to do assassin things, right? You're looking at backline dive with some really, really good frontline potential. A lot of upfront damage. Early on, while they try to press that and try to hit that, it's going to be a little squishier. Later on in the game, you're talking to Hades, like you said, that's going to be jumping in, dealing a ton of damage, and then immediately followed up by a Cabrakan who's going to be walling people off, isolating them, stunning them, good CC, Soul's going to have long range, and the entire time that's going on, Set and Serqet are diving the backline. I think there are definitely a lot of dangers that the Wardens are going to have to deal with here. But then you look over towards the Maui, I look towards the tier, I see some really good frontline, really good CC capabilities, good peel capabilities that are on the side of the Wardens. I think this one, as fun as the drafts are, it really does come down to play on field. And like you said, when you look at what happened last game, you can trust Scary D and Kyrmi that they are going to have a really good performance. You look over towards the other side, you know Elleon, you know Joshy, you know Slaaaash are going to hit really hard. The question marks are going to be this Chiron, and the question marks are going to be whether or not they can survive any of this initial onslaught, any of this hyper damage early on, and get to the point where they're able to find those carries where they need to be.
Yeah, it's backline conversation, I think, for the Gilded Gladiators, where can we clean up the positioning? Because we know we can deal the damage, right?
Yeah.
We know what Snoopy, and at times Dude Man Bro can do. Dude Man has had a quiet last couple of games. Hasn't gotten a kill in the last 2 games on AD carry. It's a tough line for the Gilded Gladiators to try to find wins through. So that's something to clean up. And we talked a lot about the KDAs of Elleon and Joshy. Slaaaash has been a big part of that early game conversation as well. And Oceans has played quite nicely. And you talk about role players, and that's what Oceans and Tubahh have done near perfectly on this run the Wardens have gone on. Slaaaash died 3 times in game 1 of this set, just the last game. That was 3 of the 4 deaths that he's had in the last 5 games. 3 games in a row with 0 deaths, 1 death in the game before that. It's hard to kill off this front line. Will the Kaolin Wardens continue their run? Will they send the Gilded Gladiators home? We'll find out with J-Mac and Myth in game 2.
And what a run that the Wardens have had in the losers bracket. Remember, very beginning of the event, they're sent down here. I believe it was the Yomi Tanuki up against them in that regard, and now we're seeing this evolution of the Kaolin Wardens as this event has progressed through. The Gilded Gladiators now 3 losses in a row, 2 from their prior set, 1 now starting out this one. That's got to be a bounce back if you're the Gilded Gladiators to keep your chances of the SPL alive. It's J-Mac and Mifflin and Doug here for game number 2 in a very important game for the Gilded Gladiators and a very important one for the Kaolin Wardens as well, because as mentioned, for the Gilded Gladiators, if they lose this one here, their chances of the SPL are gone, Mifflin. Unless a player gets picked up randomly throughout the season, that's the end of the road for these guys for Season 10.
But an animal with his back against the wall is always at their most dangerous, and the Gilded Gladiators, in the exact same situation, have decided for a full dive composition. Kyrmi, Snoopy, Inbound, Scary D, all W key. And there is one guy on the other side that I think is going to be the recipient of all the dive. Looks like Doug's a little bit ahead of the reveal. It's Joshy. I mean, on this Opwash, very difficult to get yourself out of these sticky situations. Very difficult to maneuver the jungle. But breastplate of regrowth maybe helps out a little bit. I wonder if he's got enough defense stack up early on, or even how Joshy decides to itemize Opwash, an untested element, one that I've got just about no data on. He's really got to be the talk of this game. Elleon as well on the Awilix after his super soldier performance in the previous match. I think all eyes on him as well. But as far as compositions are concerned, I really do like what the Gilded Gladiators have lined up here.
Elleon. We'll go with this patented level 3 startup once again. We saw it in game 1. We've seen it multiple times throughout the tournament. Take the quad split, get the speed and the harpies on the left side of the map, and then immediately make a rush towards lane. It does put Oceans and Tubahh behind just a tad bit in the lane because of that. They're not getting that full XP camp. That doesn't seem to have slowed down the Kaolin Wardens just yet. Kyrmi making an early rotation towards Duo, but stepped over a ward.
Close.
Elleon tries to find the knockup onto Snoopy. Some good damage from Joshy on the Opwash to keep Snoopy down under the tower line.
Lucky Snoopy's got 10,000 DPI or he doesn't turn fast enough to avoid that knockup. If he's in the air, he's dead. It'll be a walk back to base.
Joshy under fire now, but it returns a lot of it back to Snoopy. The dot, not quite enough, but Elleon will dive in. That's a 1-for-1, and maybe a little bit more. Feather Step doesn't do enough damage, and the Jaguar misses after. And the Bluestone not there for Elleon, so won't get any further damage on Kyrmi. It is just a 1-for-1, but a narrow, almost 2-kill swing for Elleon.
First blood over to Snoopy, though. Means that already on a lane bully against a mobile target, might be able to leverage a bit of that lead early on. Leon so close to finding that double. Would have made it a clean win for the Kaolin Wardens. Instead, it's Kyrmi who slips away ever so slightly. It just feels like any one of these small interactions, J-Mac, could just completely change the game. With how game one had gone, how back and forth it was, well, mainly forth until it was back about 20 minutes later. Any one of these two teams with an early lead could really start to run with it. One team, maybe more than the other, feels like they need to get involved early, and that is likely the Gilded Gladiators with this hyper-aggressive composition. I'm keeping my eyes on Inbound. I think it'll be pretty telling. Once the support rotates out, when it becomes a 3-man roaming death ball, that could be the go button for the Gilded Gladiators. Otherwise, Elleon seems to be back to his solo ways, hovering nearby.
Tries to go and steal away this blue. Kyrmi will drag it between the tower line. Scary D goes in aggressive, gets the fear on Elleon. And that should be enough to keep this blue buff from going down. No, Elleon did steal
Surely
it.
not.
Even despite the two men on top of it.
Between the towers?
Between the towers, despite the fear, did not matter, was not enough. Elleon able to take that one away from the Gilded Gladiators. It is a blue buff. It is going to hurt Scary. Lose out on that MP5 now that he would have had prior, but it's got to feel good for Elleon to find that in such narrow margins.
I mean, it's just a tough situation. A large time commitment from Kyrmi, who now has to work a little bit harder to take over towards level 5. It was a pretty mentally draining battle in game 1 for the Gilded Gladiators. Now have this small mental blemish just in the laning phase there. And it's so easy to let these small plays start to stack up on your mind. Oh man, that really affected my pathing, this, that, or the other. Scary D in some trouble. He can't leap out, just has to walk.
And will save it for the time being. Even the Lawbringer extended by Slaaaash maybe trying to scare the leap out of Scary D, but he will hold on to it. So long as he knows that Elleon is on this side of the map, not a chance that we'll see him use that death from below. But maybe with Kyrmi on the way, could get things started. Fear. And the ultimate will hold Elleon under the tower line. Elleon can jump out, but a good push by Slaaaash will keep them away. Elleon now dove on top of by Scary, but the ultimate was already expended. And Scary D has turned this around. Now Slaaaash under fire, taunted back in, and keep your eyes on Snoopy to the top side of the arena. We'll try and dive under this tower if need be. A dive in from the mid. And a kill, second one for Snoopy.
Miscommunication between Elleon and Slaaaash there. Early cancels the Fearless, but we won't get a chance to talk about it. Oceans caught between a rock and a hard place. Hovering around the wall. DMB, credit for the kill. Tubahh now trying to fight for his life. 2 auto attacks is all it would take. But he gets behind the tower, resustained with some potions. He'll live another day. Crazy turn of events. The Gilded Gladiators, 4 quick ones on the board. And wow, is it really that much of a lead already? Experience and gold.
2,000 a pop. Elleon
surely not.
On the way, a dive in by Tubahh. Ult is down for Inbound. DMB as well. They could fight in this, but Tubah's lost so much HP. DMB needed 1 more auto to take him down, but just out of range. And Elleon tries to make a big play, but Kyrmi has rotated over. Could find somebody. Ult still down for a moment. Goes for the taunt. Finds the dashes afterward, and the ult just a moment later to find yet another pick for his team. First for himself, but 4th affected kill for the jungler of the Gladiators.
If you were worried about the Gladiators' mental, this is the best remedy for it. Something going their way in the early game, and it's a lot of something this time around. Everywhere on the map. Snoopy throwing around his weight. Kyrmi looking for a purple invade as well. Joshy able to defend it this time around, but it is already a deficit in mid. Transcendence starting to stack up. A bit of parity between the 2 mid laners, but this time it's Bobby involved.
Joshy used the ultimate, but that's not going to do him any good against the 2. He will be stuck between Inbound and Snoopy. And those might be 2 of the worst gods to have to square off against if you were an Opwash this early in the game. 6 kills now for the Gilded Gladiators, and 3 of them around the waist of Snoopy. Scary D pulls Slaaaash back out from under the tower. Almost gets the kill, but not quite enough damage from Scary D.
Man, Scary has been different today as well. I mean, it's easy to look over it considering it was a loss in game 1, but Scary nearly does it on his own. Now without ultimate, has to fight back. Healing's good. Leon, do you have the damage?
Death from below hits. Elleon finds the Feather Step and just enough damage from the Jaguar after. And Elleon will get his second kill of the game and relieve a little bit of pressure that's been put up against the Kaolin Wardens. It has been non-stop aggression by the Gladiators in every single lane that's been played through. And Elleon has found at least one way to try and answer back.
Is that real? Did Snoopy just walk up on Oceans and Joshy and just last hit
Slowly.
every single one of those mid camps with auto attacks? He didn't steal the skewer. That's a lot of respect early.
Another ult, this time on a Joshy. Ultimate from Oceans will not find anybody, so Joshy will be just fine. The pull on Snoopy is good, but you pulled him closer to Joshy.
No.
Inbound wants the kill, but Joshy is too far back under the tier 1 tower. He'll resustain a little bit of his health, but gonna need some assistance from Ocean so he doesn't go down before this wave falls.
That was thin margins for Joshy there. Concern for his life, and the damage output already started to stack up from Snoopy. If he's 3-4 more stacks on Transcendence, we're probably just talking about the respawn timer. Instead, narrowly evades with his life here. Inbound briefly considers the dive, thinks better of it. Why leave it up to risk? Why give anything back? I know Ocean's ultimate doesn't connect there, but even the threat of it is enough to force Kyrmi away. If Kyrmi's allowed to stick in there and keep applying damage, it's another free pick. So Ocean's right to throw it out, even if it doesn't look too pretty on the map. The Kaolin Wardens showing a bit of life here, a bit of fight back. It's been a lot of reactive play, and it will likely remain that way until Joshy gets a bit more farm behind him.
You see another invade at the purple buff. Tubahh unsuccessful in saving that one. So more farm denied to the Kaolin Wardens, and that's where a lot of this problem is starting to arrive. So we see 3,700 XP, 3,300 gold for the Kaolin Wardens down now. They got to find some way to fight back in. The only one on their team who is even or ahead is Elleon. Has been able to get quite a bit of farm for himself, but haven't seen too much impact outside the last fight over on the right-hand side. We keep talking about Elleon. That's because, well, it seems that he's been the hero and the shining light for his team to try and bring things back. We saw it in game number 1. It seems that his team might need him to help step up for game 2 as well.
He's done a lot. He's gotten involved. It's multiple attempts. It's not for lack of trying. 100% kill participation to Elleon. Just has not had too many opportunities to get involved on the map. Now hovering on the left side, DMB. Been putting a lot of pressure on a Tubahh. I believe spotted out Elleon with that ward around the purple buff. Can't make his way forward, head back to base. It's a reset back to neutral. I wonder which team's going to be the first to move in towards the Gold Fury. You've got better secure on the Kaolin Wardens, but the Gilded Gladiators playing with a lead and have massive burn potential at that. Keeping my eyes on them. Kyrmi as well, been sacrificing his own farm just to make sure the rest of his lanes stay afloat. Slight deficit up against Leon despite a 1-0-3 undying jungler on the Gilded Gladiators. Power spikes will come quickly. I'd wondered which version of Serqet we would get from Kyrmi. Would it be full damage? Are you going a bruiser path? Is it going to be full tank? Seems we're going bruiser for now. Likely Glad Shield in this next slot. A little bit more CDR, and survivability always goes a long way.
Gold Fury being looped around by Inbound, so DMB can deal the damage to it. It's going down slowly. That's giving the Warden some time to regroup. Oceans is here. An ultimate is available. It's a blink on top of him right away. Oceans taunted back. CC chain is too strong, and the damage is just too much. Kyrmi, credit to the kill on Oceans, but CC across the board from the entire squad to make sure that he and the Gold Fury go down. But Snoopy has stepped way too far forward. Goes up against 3. Dies because of it. Now Elleon going aggressive in, finds the knockback against DMB, but stunned before he can get the feather step off. And a wall by Inbound will make sure that DMB will be safe.
Great peel from Inbound there. Just says, look, there's nothing left to fight over. I don't need the cooldown anymore. I do need my ADC to survive. Make sure DMB gets out of there. Beads as well from DMB. I thought maybe was coming out a bit too late, but make sure that Gravity Surge damage does not connect. It's a survival from the Gilded Gladiators. 1 for Fury. Well, 1 for 1 and Fury, really. If you count the initial pick onto Oceans, and you should. Massive swing once more for the veteran squad. I'm not certain that Snoopy needs to be frontlining there, but he definitely distracts Elleon, who could have potentially moved in for the steal. Instead, had eyes for the kill. Tubahh, what are you doing so far up?
Does get away from Inbound just in time. That dash a little too quick for Inbound to catch out, even with the blink this time around. That is dangerous for Tubahh to be standing so far up by himself in essentially no man's land at this point. Because there are 3 of the Gilded Gladiators on his side of the map. Kyrmi's been spending a lot of time between the left and the mid of the map. Luckily for Tubahh, he'll be able to walk out this time. Now it's a backup with Oceans because Elleon is here.
Yikes.
Landfall misses by Oceans, and that seems to be the immediate disengage for the Wardens.
They were looking for the landfall gravity surge combo. Instead, now it's the whiff into retreat true combo. Lose your tower as Salt in the Wound as well. That is tough. If it connects, Inbound can't survive that. Has no way to peel for himself. Would have been pulled even further into the tower with Tubahh nearby. Ultimate available too. Massive misplay. Only cost you the singular pick in your tower. It's not as if they would have been able to push down the tower themselves had they gotten it, but that does not bode well for the Kaolin Wardens, who are really starting to lose the thread here. The Gilded Gladiators, once they've got their lead and their kill lead, it's a massive gold lead as well. In the previous match, it was a 7-0 start for the Kaolin Wardens. Gold never really extended past that 2K point. The Gilded Gladiators say, hey, kills, that's great, but it really only gives you the power to control farm on map. And is this a true lane swap? Scary D. Going over to the left lane. DMB's job's done there. Might as well make it happen on the right. I don't think Slaaaash can stop this tower from falling. Not for too long.
We've seen it a couple times this event where you swap them over, and if Scary D can find
leave him alone.
an extra kill, he's 3 levels up on Tubahh. Ulted, or not, no ult from Elleon. Instead, it's Tubahh who goes into Centaurus. He's going to go down, and Elleon cannot do anything to save his carry. Instead, it's Kyrmi coming up with the kill and maybe a little bit more. Let's look at the damage that Snoopy is doing to just Joshy alone. Nearly half of this Opwash's HP, and that's even through the Tier 1 defense that Joshy is now going in towards.
I mean, that is a tough situation. Leon loses his beads, gets nothing for it. Tubahh loses his life. And it's off the back of Scary D just showing up and not being expected to be there. Oceans over the wall. Should be safe. Leon on the rotation. When we see lane swaps like this, it is not often the support goes with them.
Inbound said, bro, I need my farm too, man.
Yeah, I'm still stacking up all the stuff. Again, my Thebes just got finished, says Bobby. Curious. I guess with Gold Fury off the map, you don't necessarily need your support on the left-hand side. This does open the door for Kyrmi to hover as well. But you want to make a play for this Pyromancer soon. It is so pertinent to just desync the neutral objectives. If Pyromancer is down and Gold Fury is down, makes it a little bit easier. Significant grouping from the Kaolin Wardens on the right. Just showing a bit of presence here, making sure that Pyromancer isn't pulled out. DMB generating threat just by standing nearby.
Joshy relegated having to sit under the Tier 1 tower just for the damage output of the Gladiators, who have now pulled the Pyro. Slaaaash goes in, and as soon as he dashes, gets taunted back in immediately. Slaaaash able to jump out, but all the poison is just too much damage for Slaaaash. He will go down to the efforts of Kyrmi and DMB, and yet another landfall, just shy of grabbing anybody. The Kaolin Wardens about to give up yet another objective, this time the Pyromancer.
Oceans needs to clean up this Maui play. Those ultimates need to start connecting. They need to start connecting soon, especially with the damage output that we just saw from Joshy. Drops the front line down to about 20%. Scary D, speaking of, now in no man's land. Stun off the mark, turns it around.
Inbound is here. Stuns out a couple inside of the Pillar of Agony from Scary D. Double knockup is good, but it's not good enough. Elleon drops to the set damage from Snoopy. 4-2-1. The mid laner for the Gilded Gladiators, and nearly at least halfway up on the damage chart there. About 6,000 for himself this game, but all have been put into the right targets.
And with the Oni Fury back up and Pyromancer off the map, the Kaolin Wardens too weak to look at the Giant. The Gilded Gladiators can fully dedicate their time to the Fury on the left-hand side. DMB, don't lie. He's essentially the solo laner now, so when he makes the rotation, you know it's going to be true. Is what I would have said had Scary D not given me whiplash. He's actually on right again, so these guys are just juggling back and forth.
Keeping us guessing.
Keeping us guessing, keeping the Wardens guessing. Should be a Fury pool pretty soon, especially with Tubahh now showing himself on map, left-hand side. Bobby showing presence, Kyrmi, DMB on the way in. Keep your eyes on Joshy, though. Haven't seen it just yet, but his damage output is massive. Just needs a bit of facilitation.
Scaredy in the 2v1, winning out initially, but pulled back now by Elleon. Fury will go to the Gladiators. Scaredy will not make it out of this one. That's what I would have said, but that healing is disgusting. Just not enough damage. Elleon walks back with only about 20 HP to his name. Very close by Scaredy to turn that one around. I thought for sure he should have been dead before that heal came through, but he proves me wrong and holds out a little longer.
Yeah, just nothing he could have done there better. I mean, that was picture perfect from the Hades. Tubahh taking a lot of damage. So many people on the right-hand side. Nobody here to help him on the left. Throws out the Centaurus. Wishful thinking. I'm thinking. Not much he could have done. And now without that death immunity, he's got Kyrmi on him.
Yeah, Kyrmi walked up behind and said, that was a really cool ultimate you just used there, Tubahh, but what else you got in the pocket to deal with my damage? Kyrmi going for this hybrid style of build as well. The Glad Shield picked up earlier, and now a Stone of Binding to further bump up his extra damage. And the Gilded Gladiators now nearing 10,000 gold in the lead, sitting just over 9K at this point. Feels very reminiscent of game 1 from yesterday, Sam Miff. And maybe that's why I'm so worried right now.
Be careful. Don't evoke that evil.
That's why I'm so worried, man. It's such a dominant performance that the Gladiators have put out. But you got to keep that little thought in the back of your mind of they've been here before. Have they learned how to clean up their late game performance?
And it's not exactly the strongest siege composition either. It's really almost entirely up to DMB to deal with these structures. I mean, runic bombs, I always simplify it, but I don't know. Maybe there is a bit of parity between this game and yesterday's game 1. Joshy's on an incredibly powerful defensive mage, really difficult to work past an op wash, empty the crypts, control space, damage output, those corpses, the essentially landmines that you have to play concerned with. Oceans, I'm not certain has hit an ultimate just yet, but you got to think he will on Phoenix or tier 2 defense.
Can't miss 100 shots.
Yeah, can't miss all of them. I don't know. The Kaolin Wardens feels like they've got something a little bit left, but it would be hard pressed to see it. I mean, this is a massive lead. I know we haven't had exactly the most reasons to have confidence here in the Gladiators and their ability to close out these games, but it's such a large lead, and it's come so early. And Pyromancer's spawning again, and Fire Giant's on the menu, and this tier 1 tower is going to drop here. Just everything lining up for the Order side.
It was 5 Furies, 5 Pyros, and 4 Fire Giants.
Man, that sounds
game
so
1
good.
Yesterday.
Yeah, that was a win, right?
No, that was a loss.
Okay.
So maybe give one to the enemy team, let them have one for once. That way you don't have to feel as pressured. But no, it'll be second Pyromancer now, as well as the second Fury earlier on. That'll respawn in about a minute now for the Gladiators. 2 runic bombs in hand, one for Inbound, one for Snoopy. But Kyrmi, W King, towards Slaaaash. Does get pulled back. The clutch of Elleon will jump away, so Kyrmi fine, but even with all the defense to his name, you're starting to see the damage output that Elleon and Slaaaash could have up against him.
I'm surprised he decides to even use the beads there. I mean, he is tanky. Tubahh isn't. Wow. 50%, just skewer. Runic bomb used for the tier 2.
20 to 14.
Yeah. Man.
Also, wait, 20 on Snoopy. Wow.
Yeah, Snoopy's been free farming the entire time. 20 to 14, though. I didn't even realize it's a 6-level deficit there. Now's the time. Keep up your pressure. Move in towards gold. It's on the respawn. Have to play wary, though. Look at this stack up from the Kaolin Wardens. If the Gilded Gladiators go for Gold Fury here, could just lose the Fire Giant.
Scary D. Blinks away from Slaaaash. Puts a blink from Elleon. Doesn't manage to get the pull. I think the beads were just lasting long enough from Scary D to dive under. Oceans wants this pick. But Oceans, you gotta hit the landfall if you want to find the pick after.
Oceans.
Snoopy on the way. Scary D charging back forward. 4 of the Kaolin Wardens on the run from what would only be 2
have a jump
of the Gilded Gladiators, but Scary D not able to close the gap. Inbound wants it. He's got Blink. He's got ult to try and catch somebody. Kyrmi has found one in the jungle, and Two-Man Bro with the poly shot after eliminates the jungler. Oceans is gone. 5 Gladiators stand strong, and 2 of the Wardens now in the grave.
The Maui play is criminal now. I want to be a nice guy. I don't want to rip into one dude, but that is...
hit.
He hasn't hit an ultimate yet. He inted his entire team there. They're going to lose a Phoenix off this.
Slaaaash tries to hold out, but Joshy is gone. Slaaaash is the only one left alive on the Phoenix.
Is it the game?
And it's 10 seconds until Elleon is back. Tubahh is low. Back to the fountain.
It can't be.
But not going to end the game just yet. Right side Phoenix burn. And I think the adaptation, maybe the lack of siege for the Gilded Gladiators is made up by this third item poly that Dude Man Bro picks up. And maybe that's what happened to Elleon, was one Kyrmi combo into a poly auto from Soul wiped him out.
Yeah, I mean, the damage output from Dude Man Bro is ridiculous at this point. We still haven't seen a siege without a runic bomb, and I'm not certain that we will. It's a regroup, back to base, head over to fire. Pyromancer might spawn in time with the Kaolin Wardens. Show face on the defense. The Wardens, I mean, simple adaptations need to be hit. And by need to be hit, I think I've hit the nail on the head. Need to hit some of these abilities. It is criminal so far, the Kaolin Warden support's performance. Otherwise, the Gilded Gladiators, no complaints. Scary D playing defensively, baits out the Wardens. From there, it's an easy chase down from the rest of the team. Fire Giant pulled, and the Warden's got to take a consolation prize somewhere. Not going to put up a defense. Instead, it's a Gold Fury trade. Doesn't feel good, but it's something.
Gotta get something out of nothing, especially when you're down 15,000 gold. Some of that alleviated by the Gold Fury, but the Gilded Gladiators with another Fire Giant with only one Tier 2 tower standing on the map. That's the one in mid. And our right Phoenix gone. Somebody has got to at least stay over there and deal with minions. For the Kaolin Wardens, for the moment, it seems to be Slaaaash who's been relegated to dealing with those. But everybody else on the Gladiators, they can group up left, start pushing down that lane if they want, group up mid, push there. Feels like the Kaolin Wardens are almost always going to have to fight at a deficit in these team fights.
99% odds for the Gilded Gladiators in this position. The gold lead has come so quickly that it is impactful. So it is seldom that 15,000 gold is actually 15,000 impact gold. Not a single 6-slotted member on the Kaolin Wardens. Nobody upgrading their starters just yet either. Relics still need upgrades. Everything in the pocket of the Gilded Gladiators matters right now. Added another Polynomicon and their power spike, so Scary D will help out on the siege. So having no standard hunter, not exactly a big deal. Having no standard mid laner, not either a big deal. Instead, it's about dive and peppering in damage. No runic bomb, though. Got to do it the old-fashioned way.
Scary and Kyrmi grouping up in mid. Kyrmi can go between the lanes just as quickly as he is needed. Snoopy actually going to join the fray for mid. It seems that he and Kyrmi could just bounce between each other. It's a 3-stack to mid. Scary D with the poly is already starting to put some good damage in the Phoenix. Half HP on the bird.
Wow.
With just a couple of autos thrown through. They can keep doing it there. Even mitigated. It's still over 200 damage that Scary can hit time after time on this bird. While DMB and Inbound, they're just chilling on the left side. Look what DMB's been able to do to the left Phoenix.
Yeah, gotta go in for the defense at some point. Death of 1,000 cuts seems to be the play here for the Gilded Gladiators. The Kaolin Wardens want to prevent it. They have to initiate, but they're playing at such a deficit that I can't blame them not wanting to.
Midbird, one good auto away. Make that one more good auto away. But who's going to be the one to walk in? It's got to be Scary D to grab it from the distance. Will go through. Mid Phoenix gone. Slaaaash now versus 3. Will dash away. And all the while, I mean, we've been so focused on what's been happening in mid. Dude Man Bro and Inbound are literally just chilling out over in left side, taking the bird by their own accord. That poly from the Soul is also starting to chip away.
It's the same thing that happened in mid, just repeated on left. Now as a 5-stack though, it's the team fight.
Oceans.
Scary D, massive.
Oceans can't even get the ultimate off just yet. Won't even get an opportunity to. The wall from Inbound is just too much. Snoopy to the backline. Elleon has pulled in Scary D, and that's at least one turnaround. But now it's got to be Elleon against 4. The Gilded Gladiators are not going to drop the lead that they've gotten in this game. With 4 up on the Titan, no chance for Elleon to save this one. And Miff, we are going to a Game 3.
And in a set where it seems like the early game is the indicator. In Game 1, early belongs to Elleon's team. Dominates through a essentially 7-0 start. Bit more back and forth there. Once Kyrmi and the boys, the Snoop Troop, line up their early game, I mean, that was clean. There was nothing I could critique. It was just perfect top to bottom, objective play, tower siege, some wild lane swaps, doesn't matter. Just executed every step of the way. Adaptations in Game 3, get Oceans off the Maui.
Yeah, as great as Maui is as a god, that was probably one of the most lackluster Maui performances that we've seen from Oceans in general, maybe just from Maui in general so far. I mean, I don't think a single ultimate landed that entire game. Didn't even get a chance to use it in the last team fight. And he looked something different. If you're the Kaolin Wardens, the Gilded Gladiators keep the set interesting. They take us to a game number 3, and we'll get to you guys right after this break.
We got a game 3 here on Saturday, and it's an elimination game 3. Either you're going home or you're one step closer to the losers finals. Down here in the lower bracket. I like calling it the lower bracket, but all these teams have lost a game at some point throughout the weekend, just like the Wardens did here in game number 2. And we talked about mental bounce back being needed for the Gilded Gladiators. How do you do it when the last couple of sets have gone the way they have for you? You W key, and that seems to be the answer for the Gladiators here in game 2, Gore. They kill early, they kill often, and they don't stop until the Titan is down. Seems like exactly the right type of medicine for how the slow, long burn, kind of watching the light fade away type games have gone in previous games.
Yeah, and you get this really, like you said, solid performance out of them where you just get to get aggressive to the point where it was like if you blinked, if you weren't watching the first 5 minutes, then you just get back and you're like, I'm sorry, why do they have 6 kills? Like, what's been going on? And it's just because you get a lot of this, right? It's a composition, and that kind of showcases it more than anything, where things can go wrong. You are still squishy, but you have a lot of damage across the entirety of the board. You have a lot of aggression, and you're able to make that pay off in dividends, playing very much, like you said, W key style. And what was kind of telegraphed from the start, I mean, you don't see a draft like that and think, oh, I bet these guys are waiting for 45 minutes. You see a draft like that, and you better start thinking something similar to last year's Jade Dragons, right? You got to be thinking of a team that has PVM on it, you know, Ghost Gaming prior to that, Rival prior to that, things like that, where they are just going to run you down, and they're going to do it well, they're going to do it better, and you're not going to have a real chance to fight on equal footing. They're going to have a 5,000 gold lead by the time you feel like you can team fight. They're going to have a 10,000 gold lead by the time you think you can hold on to an objective. So they're going to keep you on your toes, keep you on the back foot, and I think they played really well. I am going to give them a little bit of credit and maybe cast a little shade. They had a little help. Not a lot coming from the Maui. That's all. That's as in-depth as I'm going to get on it. Not a lot that came from the Maui.
That's
not
nice
a lot
of
that
you.
impressed me over there.
That was real nice of you.
So I think really the meanest thing I'll say right now, if Oceans goes back to that, I think the Wardens lose this next game. Unless it is a complete turnaround performance, I do not think that, like, it was very just non-impact. I think we need to see a very big change that comes from the support. Inbound wasn't prioritizing it. They didn't first pick it. You could probably just ban it out and feel just as good doing something like that.
It was a bad Maui game.
It was very bad.
It was
Maui
not a
game.
good Maui
I'll stop
game.
being nice about it. That was
no, but I don't think there's ways to. You could say it's a bad game without like owning the dude, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great from Oceans, but the rest of the Wardens are. I mean, that's a massive piece of your initiation,
Yes.
right? And your defense. So you need that to connect, but not as if the rest of the squad was knocking it out of the park in their lane. I mean, this was really a game that the Gladiators won. And then there was also this extra facet of a tough support performance. It's the way that I end up looking at it. So now is the script completely reversed. It's got to be the Gilded Gladiators mentally a bit happier now after game number 2. They're back to their winning ways. They kind of remind themselves and remind us what this squad is capable of.
Yep, and can do. And what the expectations were. A couple of the casters, I think Miff even predicting this team to go through into the SPL. And can the Wardens now, they won 5 straight individual games, 2 straight sets, and then game 1 of this set. How do they shrug off a loss? Because what happened against the Storm is they won game 1, lost game 2, could not recover in game 3. And so I think battling storylines here going into the 3rd and final game. What I like, though, is adaptations. Both squads showing some respect to the other, right? Last time Wardens were first picked, they went for the Mercury. No questions asked.
Yep.
This time around, Mercury gets banned out by the Gladiators. They recognize we shouldn't let that through. Elleon, what he was doing in game number 1, I mean, even if the team was playing well around him, even if they hadn't been, he was going to drag them kicking and screaming across the finish line one way or another, right? It was going to happen, and that Mercury was setting up a lot. So I admire the Gladiators recognizing what his presence has been and trying to limit that. I also have to say the Wardens giving the appropriate amount of respect to the other side, which is straight up saying that Hades, this set, were 2 incredible problems. We can't let you have Freya. That one's just standard, but we cannot deal with these other 2. Let's get rid of them, force them onto something different. And I'm actually a big fan of this. We've seen 2 picks that have really been dominating mid throughout this week, and it has been Tiamat and Merlin.
Yep.
I think Tiamat, They both kind of slot into any composition that you really want, right? Tiamat comes with maybe, I don't even want to say less damage because she does a ton, but a little more tankiness, right? A lot more, I guess, nuance in the kit, although Merlin is just as nuanced considering he has 3 stances you have to shuffle through. More burn from Merlin is the way I would maybe describe it the best, right? You can go through objectives really well, you can tread tanks really well. I think that's going to enable them, and it gets Joshy on something that I think he has been very adept at. That, however, surprises me, because I did not see anybody other than Tubahh locking in a Chiron.
This is interesting. What I was about to say along that same conversation, Gore, is if the Gladiators want Tiamat, I think they got to pick her in the top 3 because that's a really simple ban for the Wardens if the Wardens think that Snoopy wants to play it. We haven't seen Snoopy on the Tiamat yet this week. Set, Huang, Agni, another set game, Neath, Ra. Think about what we've seen from Snoopy.
Yeah.
Less conventional mages. Now the Agni and the Huang a bit more conventional, but outside of that, hasn't been the Tiamat, hasn't been the Merlin. And it does not look like it's going to be the Tiamat as the answer, and so the Wardens are able to get this massive high priority god. Now Snoopy can play these other picks, maybe up to that Tiamat potential, and looking like it would be the Chiron out of mid then for Snoopy.
Snoopy's played a lot of mid.
Sure has.
Competitively, no Tiamat games. I was going to pull it up. I was going to see what his win-loss was, what his KDA
Can you see
is.
how many games out of mid he's played? I don't want to throw you through too many.
I can tell you games he's played mages, because that's what I have open right now. Well, okay, hold on. I got to count here.
I'll run through the run through the P's and B's while you're adding up how many mage games Snoopy has played. Guan Yu, Xing Chen, the Kaolin Wardens. If you're wondering what their front line is going to look like, got a lot more clear. And think back to earlier in the weekend when the Wardens finally started to go on their run. What support pick did Oceans play that synergized so well with Elleon? It was this Xing Chen. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel on the end of some type of setup from Elleon. They were on the same page constantly. And after a really rough game number 2.
Oh, whoops.
Looks like the Kaolin Wardens are trying to get back to that. Did you flub some numbers there, Gore?
Not only did I flub numbers, I forgot to count the games and was just counting the different gods. So
that's kind of fun, too. Either way.
I got to 4 before I realized my mistake.
Strong pick here for the Gilded Gladiators. Scary D, despite a loss in game 1, looked real good on this pick. Ended up at 9-2-6 in that game. That leaves the Wardens open now to, okay, we know how Scary wants to play this pick. We know what to expect. Maybe there's some answers in that area.
I think that's exactly the way, at least that I would look at it, right? Is hey, we now know how we can deal with this a little bit more. We've seen what the goal was. Now that you see the soul locked in as well, you've got maybe more of a composition in mind that you're going for. I actually really love the response in those top 2 to grab a Xing Chen, right? That helps limit a lot of the basic attack damage. It's really good engage. And more importantly, it's not that Maui. So really, you do get some shifts. And it's all in the right direction. I really do think this front line is going to be solid for him. Good not just in the counters, but with Guan Yu, you've got a really good capability of starting fights, really good engage on the ult, really good disengage if we see a lot of solo lane focus, which was happening a little earlier. The question does still remain what Leon's going to play, which I think is just as important for this team, maybe even more important than what some of their frontline picks are. Getting Slaaaash on something that's going to be this strong, already a really big pick. But I think that what Leon is going to be bringing, which he gets at least one more sight on the Gladiators, one more god lock-in before he has to choose it. We're seeing a lot of limitations. I mean, the Awilix, in and of itself, wasn't terrible. Didn't really get to do too much, though. That entire game was very not stat-worthy when it comes down to what you're seeing from the Wardens. And so I think that the Gladiators feel they can handle it. With a better team surrounding it, I don't dislike that, but you don't really have the same capabilities that you had last time. You're looking at it before, really bringing in like a lot of counter picks because there were 3 leaps on the other side, 4 leaps on the other side that you could really capitalize on. You don't have as many now. And so I think if you're the Wardens, I appreciate where they're going. A little bit of isolation towards trying to control Kyrmi. Whereas if you're Leon, my brain can't get off of Awilix now, so really I should just wait until he locks it in, because that's what I've been talking about for so long.
Interesting pick here. I'm going to assume for Kyrmi out of the jungle, the Fenrir. Though in days of past score, we've seen Fenrir support.
And I was gonna say if they since they just W keyed, and I'm not gonna say I advocate for it, but if you're trying to W key again,
Which is usually not a good thing.
that's a way you could try to go for it.
When I'm advocating, I've learned this about myself in my Smite gameplay. All I do is W key, even when it's the worst time to do it, even when it's objectively the bad call to make.
Yeah.
There's something in my brain that's wired to refuse to just sit back. I'm constantly scrapping, and I'm losing half of them.
Here's how you need to frame that, right? You got to put some spin on it. Just like you're not a KDA player.
No.
You're really
That's
in
right.
there
I'm
for
a
the
team until I lose like a random 1v1 that I shouldn't be taking, and then I lose it for my team. So I of course advocate for the Fenrir from a W key perspective, whether that be jungle or support. Likely though, I think would go to Kyrmi. How about these two picks from the Wardens, though, Gore? Mentioned the Xing Chen and the Guan Yu earlier. You got some good dive and chase down follow-up potentially on this Bastet. A lot of it, though, for the Wardens. Elleon, how's he feeling himself? Are these pulls going to be hitting their targets?
We saw a lot of really good Bastet play at the beginning of the tournament. We've also seen some not-so-great Bastet play throughout the tournament. I think this is going to be one of those ones. It is a coin flip. It is how are you feeling yourself. Mifflin had said it earlier on Twitter. He said that Leon was doing some super soldier stuff.
Yep.
That's what he needs. That's what you got. Granted, you're not Mercury. You're not going to get to run in, just punch a guy, and he's out for good. You're going to have to put a little more work into it because of the Bastet and the god that you're playing. But I think that you've got it. And like you said, a lot of it's going to be on those ults, but you've got really good frontline for setup, really good follow-up in terms of damage, and your damage output isn't anything to scoff at either. So if you're looking just at jungle, it's going to be there, I think, for the Wardens. The Jing Wei is one that I honestly kind of like as well because you get decent damage, good crits. Early on, your crit chance is just going to be blanket statement higher. But more importantly, you're safe. You can get out of things that are a little too iffy for you. If you're getting chased down by, let's say, a Terra Soul, then you're going to be really good. If it's Terra Chiron, you're still going to be able to get away pretty far without having to worry too much about it. So I do like what you're dealing with. Plus, you spend so much time in lane constantly because of your passive that you don't lose out on as much farm. You don't fall as behind as easily. It is very much an easy pick to kind of guide you into something that could be a successful late game.
I don't know what it was when the wide shot of both of those team booths almost added some nerves to me because again when you recontextualize this match, your life now this is not
5 of those guys aren't going anywhere.
Right. Well, home.
Well,
right.
yeah, I guess home. They better get out of here. They can't stay.
I don't know. Look, Kyrmi's nodding his head. He's smiling. But you got to know there's some nerves shifting around in there. This is not an SPL qualifier game. You're not going to the SPL if you win this game 3. But your dream of making it this year as a squad, outside again of some potentially individual player pickups, if we get there. That's not what you want to hinge your SPL dream on. This is the end of the road for one of these two teams, and so there's sort of when you try to assume what these players are talking about, of course they're talking strategy, but is it undertoned by a little nerve? Is there confidence throughout the player booth? Because the Gladiators just faced an elimination game number 2, right? Now they got to do it again, but the Warden's also dealing with that on the other side, where it's a team who wanted to make some noise. Further you get on, you're like, okay, guys, we can actually do this. One of these two teams going home.
Kind of like how, when we were talking about the Gladiators last game, right? Like you said, you can't let that weight get to you. You have to let it motivate you, but you can't let it collapse on top of you. You can't, you're not going for a lift and then suddenly you're watching the bar crush your body. You got to be able to get it, and I think that they're going to look
That's
for
pillar number 3 of World Score. When the lights shine their brightest and the pressure is at its heaviest, the playmakers must allow the energy of the moment to fuel them. Onto the casters we go for an elimination game number 3.
One of these teams' tournament road ends here. The other one still has to go through 2 more arduous sets of play in order to try and make it into the Smite Pro League. But it's all got to start here in game number 3 between the Kaolin Wardens and the Gilded Gladiators. 2 games and 2 teams that have really dictated the pace of the game by early pressure to win out in both of their matchups. And Mifflin, going into game number 3, Elleon on another pick, something that we only saw at the beginning of this tournament that was piloted by Grave. Tell me some of your thoughts maybe on this Bastet for the Kaolin Wardens.
I've played against Elleon's Bastet personally a fair deal of times, and I could count the amount of times I've beaten it on maybe one hand. If that inspires confidence in you, I can't do anything to take it away, but I will say this about Bastet. Not exactly as early game as a Fenrir. And in 2 games so far this set that feel dictated by the first 10 minutes, you have to expect Kyrmi gets the better end of that matchup. And then you look at the rest of the draft. Joshy on the Merlin scales very well. One of the best siege and siege defense mages. Not early game. Slaaaash on the Guan Yu. Great team fight presence. Lots of dive, defense shred, a little bit of healing, some sustain. Not exactly early game. Jing Wei, one of the best crit users in the game. Cleave auto attacks. Has to stack up those items. Not exactly early game. You look at the Gilded Gladiators. Snoopy's on a pressure hunter, ability hunter out of mid. Incredibly early game focused. Scary D on the Camazotz. Not a stranger to this situation. Was there exactly in game 1. Survives once more. Is an early game pick and will resustain very quickly. Terra as well. Great lockdown. Very strong level 1 through 3. Soul, an early game bully. The Gilded Gladiators have the capacity to absolutely run away with this match in the first 10 minutes. But it's not as if they fall off either. I've got a lot of concerns for the Kaolin Wardens. Once you're at 2 items, things should equalize a bit. And you got a little bit more confidence in the rest of the Wardens and their draft. This is a very critical 6-minute period, 6-7 minutes for the Gilded Gladiators and the Wardens.
Well, we want to talk about some early rotational power. We've already seen it now from the Gilded Gladiators. Elleon goes over to the right side of the map, tries to find that gank on Scary, comes up empty-handed. And so immediately Kyrmi and Snoopy, once they got that clear in mid, actually end up stealing the back Harpy camp away from Elleon. It's going to be a little bit of gold, a little bit of experience removed from him there. Scary D falling low again.
Yikes!
The damage to the minions and Slaaaash takes a little bit more than maybe Scary D was bargaining for. And he ends up falling down to a solo kill for first blood.
Yeah, all right, maybe Guan Yu's more early game than I let on, right? That is not the standard. I think Scary D missed jump on wave. I didn't see his HP go up there, so maybe a bit of miss sustain. Overcommits the fight. The bluestone off the Screech. Applying that dot damage kept the archers on him as well. Just takes a whole lot of damage. Guan Yu with the lead can be hard to deal with. But Scary D's got plenty of sustain on Camazotz. I think it's going to come down to rotations. Is Elleon going to hover the right side? How willing are you to dedicate time to invading this blue buff, controlling the right side camps? Well, Elleon's already there, and he's there very early.
Yeah, Elleon there before it's even respawned back in. Scary D slowed yet again. Jump in by Elleon. The lash is there. The cat is there. And it's a kill for the jungler. 2 up for the Kaolin Wardens, trying to reprise that pacing from game 1. But Kyrmi has joined the fray. Goes in with the Brutalize and just enough damage on the follow-up auto after. Immediate response for the Gilded Gladiators. But Slaaaash still going aggressive up on Kyrmi. Needs to be careful because Scary D is on the way back in.
Fenrir's damage right now just absolutely ridiculous. That did upwards of 300 to 400 at level 3. These guys have 900 HP to play with. 883 total for Kyrmi himself. Absolutely wild what Fenrir can do. You gotta play wary of that exact situation. And it's not as if Slaaaash had a counterplay there. There's nothing he could have done. You can't prevent that from happening. Now that he's level 5, instant cancel cavalry charge, sure, you can deal with Brutalize. Elleon can leap out of it. Joshy's got Flicker. Ocean just has a jump. Tubahh, Airstrike. Trading Brutalize for Airstrike feels pretty good, I'd argue. So maybe Tubahh wants to position a bit more defensively. Keep your eyes on Kyrmi. This is a game where, in the early game, he's been largely just farming out, playing facilitator. Fenrir is a pick where you really need to make your stamp known. And getting a 1-0 start this early, it does bode well.
Elleon trying to get aggressive again on that right side, but doesn't find the lash on Scary D this time around. So the level 5 Camazotz still without his first full item. Will be fine just for the time being, but Slaaaash is matching at least as close as he can to some of the sustain that Scary D has, but it's hard to really do so when you're going up against the amount of healing that is just built into the kit of this Camazotz, between his passive, between that leap and the bats as well, and this allows Scary D now to continue poking away at these Bastion HPs.
Yeah, just stack up some of that gold a little bit earlier. Scary has picked up beads for himself, perhaps concerned about the Huntress of Bast, so won't be able to teleport in back towards lane. Hasn't quite finished up that Transcendence. Probably has nearly enough gold in pocket to head back to base soon. Gold in hand, about 1,000, so he's creeping up on it. Will take a long while, though, to walk back. Have to play really smart around these timers. Might even get the gold just as those blue buffs start to spawn up. So if Elleon's still hovering around the right, once those blues are up, might be able to catch Scary D lacking one more time. Bat Out of Hell, one of the most defensive ultimates in the game, doesn't help you when you got a dot on you. So Bastet uniquely suited at shutting down the Camazotz. Could be an interaction we have to keep our eyes on going forward. Speaking of power spikes, though, they're happening elsewhere quietly. No action in mid, but both starting to stack them up. Book of Thoth and Transcendence for the 2. Slight difference in ideas from supports, though. Gauntlet of Thieves are inbound. More guaranteed on the stack. She'll get the defense regardless, so long as you can stand near a wave. Whereas Oceans, looks like Prophetic Cloaks on his mind. Got to get active for that one to find its value.
Well, we'll see if Oceans can make some kind of impact here in game number 3. Not the strongest performance out of him in game 2 on the Maui, so he goes back to something that he's played a few other times this tournament, has done really well on in both the occasions that he has done it. The Xing Chen once more. A lot of CC in this god, but also maybe something to try and deal with Dude Man Bro or even Kyrmi, because we've seen what Fenrir's just ability damage can do. Stack that up with some extra auto attacks. Maybe Ocean's get in there and try and give a little bit of, relieve a little bit of pressure, at least for his squad in that regard.
Yeah, for those of you not in the know, Ferocious Roar takes away a bit of that auto attack damage percentage. I believe it's 15%. Keep me honest, J-Mac. You're so much better than me. Yeah, I'm not going to look at you. You can tell me. Thank you.
5-0.
Is it 50%?
50 at max.
Oh, at max. Oh, God.
It starts out at 25, though.
Ridiculous. Yo, Ferocious Roar is better than I thought. That is
20.
Absolutely
It's good.
insane. And it's not just Kyrmi. It's not just DMB. It's Snoopy as well. Scary D, if he's going to go down the full damage tree, a lot of these kills are going to get finished off by his auto attack. So Xing Chen should find some value. Has that range damage. Can stack up that Prophetic Cloak, too. So maybe one that you can have faith in. I know the previous performance probably doesn't instill a whole lot of faith, but Oceans has had great performances on this pick throughout the event and throughout his career. It's a much lower execution threshold as well. Just get into the back line, start spinning. Washing machine, you'll find the value eventually. With that said, though, look at the level disparity between the supports. When and where did that happen? 2 levels. Make it just 1 as Oceans has finally ticked over to 6. Inbound just farming up a bit better.
I'll tell you, it's real fun walking up to Hunter's late game and watching them auto you for like 80 damage.
It's 50%?
It's 50%,
Is that new?
No.
Oh, I'm just bad. Okay,
That's
cool.
been around for a while. Though the dot damage after, the percent HP has received some change-ups over not too long ago, giving a little bit of extra bonus damage over time. But Kyrmi and Inbound team up against Oceans and Elleon. It's a fight over the shield buff once more. This seems to have been where a lot of brawls have been occurring. Scary D eats the full stun of Slaaaash, goes in for the leap. The Bluestone dot, plus some extra healing coming back to Scary D and keep the poke up, but that was close for Scary on the right side.
Scary is much more brave than I am. My leap would have been headed towards that tower. Just knows the damage output, shows the veteranship there, realizes it's more of a winning play to go for the sustain, doing so very well. Vampiric Bats on a pretty short cooldown, nearly back up to full HP. Slaaaash already used the ultimate, so the majority of his fight already lost out on there. But this is a good bully, creating a lot of space on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, the game's happening on the left, though, and it's actually the Gilded Gladiators pulling the gold.
Gold down to a quarter. A couple of players here to try and stop this one. Ocean's there with the ultimate. Doesn't not get in there in time, but the Wardens do steal it away. Ocean's now picked up by Kyrmi, who will continue to chase in with the Brutalize, but a leap out will break that channel, and 30 damage from Persistent Gust is what steals away the Fury.
Man, that is just an awful feeling. Tubahh, well placed and a bit lucky here. Fate smiles upon the Kaolin Wardens on the first objective of the game. Slaaaash is going to teleport over, so a bad situation goes to worse as purple buff is stripped away. But this does create some time for Scary D to catch back up, stack up that Transcendence, should have it evolved by the time Slaaaash makes his way back to the soul lane. Lose a whole lot of pressure there. Game still largely even. It's the Gilded Gladiators nursing a slight lead.
Elleon loses the blue buff to Scary D. He'll waltz on over and take that buff away to continue removing some farm from the right side of the map and really have quite a bounce back. I mean, Scary D down 0-2 early in the game to start things out and has now evened himself out with Slaaaash as far as XP is concerned. Still going that full damage route. At least reminiscent of what we saw in game number 1. It wasn't until last item that Scary D had bought any defense. It was a spectral armor to deal with Elleon on the crit damage. I wonder, since we're not probably going to see crit unless it comes from Tubahh in this regard, does actually have it started itemized into it. Wonder if maybe we see that same build path for Scary D in this game.
I'd say yes. Scary D just likes to deal damage, has some great targets for it, really good at diving on a Merlin, has decent chase down potential for the Bastet. Just that slow from Vampiric Bats lasting as long as it does makes it easy to chase her down on the leap back from her first ability. Even Tubahh probably susceptible to some of that damage as well. So if anyone's going to go tank, I would have expected Kyrmi to maybe go for a more bruiser path, especially considering he had just done it on the Serqet, but instead he's also gone for a full glass cannon, Jotuns, and a Hydras. It's a lot of burst.
Dive in by Kyrmi. Doesn't find anybody with the jump.
DMB's here?
Inbound.
It's a lane swap.
Yeah, his tower's gone over there. DMB has nothing to do in
That's
that lane
just
anymore.
the strat. Okay.
It's just the way. Take tower by 10 minutes and let Scary D roll swap back over to the other side of the map.
Ooh,
The Scary D misses out on one shot. Does have the ultimate to chase down Tubahh, who will use his ult, but it's right into the arms of
What
Snoopy.
up?
Who are you
Where
going to
you
die
going?
to in this case? It seems
The
that
whiff!
it might just be Scary
whiff!
D.
Okay.
Scary D will grab it. The Screech Chapter is just enough. No tower for safety there, and a kill for the Gladiators.
Man, Tubah's got to feel so bad about that. Snoop's just posted up in the purple buff.
Because I'm safe and oh.
Yeah, where you going, bud? He thought he'd done something getting over that wall. Doesn't do a whole lot. Keep your eyes on Elleon, left-hand side. Has the flank. No ultimate for Scary D.
D, though,
Doesn't need
fighting
it.
right through it, jumps past the ultimate of Elleon, who will leap back into the jungle, and Scary D will happily re-sustain in his lane. He says, yeah, I came to this lane. It is mine now. I will scare anybody out of it. And a 4-man grouping versus 2 on the right side. Kyrmi goes in with the ultimate, does pick up one. But Oceans goes to the ult, doesn't find anybody with it this time around. And Slaaaash will fall. Elleon on the other side, who walks back to Scary. Tubahh goes in aggressive. Tower's gone.
What?
DMB and Snoopy punished. This is questionable play after questionable play from the Wardens.
Did Oceans try and ult Kyrmi while he was Ragnarok? I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't
Interesting.
either.
That is strange ult placement. Maybe concerned about a dive, but Kyrmi's dragging your teammate away, not towards the tower. I mean, I don't think it changes things too much. If he holds on to it a little bit longer, maybe he can separate the back line, but certainly not ideal usage there. Looks like we got a lane swap trade. Slaaaash says, I'll handle Scary D, but now he's playing at a deficit, whereas previously was playing at a massive lead. Things have changed completely. DMB, suffering from success, has taken out both towers on the right-hand side. Where's he going to go?
All right, Snoopy, get out of your lane. That one's mine now, bro.
If DMB goes mid and takes Snoopy's lane, that is potentially the most Sigma move I've ever seen. It's hilarious,
Wait,
really.
oh no, he's going back left.
Okay. Well, you know, his work's not done. You know, I'll celebrate when my work's done. There's a tier 2 in left still.
Yeah, and that's half HP from what Scary D did there earlier on. Okay, I'm going to try and, like, Giga Brain think of maybe what was going through Ocean's mind for that ultimate. Maybe he thought that Slaaaash would immune the bite with cavalry charge,
He was
and then he would pick it up, but then he's So maybe he thought, okay, Ocean's thinking, okay, the bite's coming to me, so I'll ult the bite, but
They came out like
It was
way
already
after
late.
Slaaaash was like.
I'm just trying to turn the gears in my brain to think what was
Oceans was
going.
thinking, I fight for my friends, and I'm going in, and it just didn't work.
Did not. And now we're at Oni Fury. Vision for the Wardens, but man advantage for the Gladiators. Oceans, half HP, and Scary D
What up?
waiting for him after. Where's the Xing Chen gonna go now? The ult does not come out in time for anything, for damage, for CC. And instead it's the Gilded Gladiators with 5 running down the
damage.
Fury. Scary D low. The ultimate does hit one, but it's beats out. Instead it's Kyrmi picking up Elleon. The Supernova rings through the back line. The Fury still has not been leashed yet.
Scary's
Slaaaash
healthy.
in danger, and Slaaaash is gone. It's a killing spree for Scary D.
Here
It's a
goes
kill
Kyrmi.
for Kyrmi, and Joshy, with 1 moment left, will give his life over to Snoopy. 5 strong of the Gilded Gladiators. They'll walk back to the Oni Fury, and they'll take their objective plus their 3 kills.
If Tubah's just a little bit luckier there, maybe he grabs a couple of kills for his team. The crits were not for him. Oceans picked out a bit too early. Leon, I believe, doesn't grab the proper target with the ultimate. Maybe does. Every bead set down on the Gilded Gladiators, so hard to say who exactly he did grab over that wall. Regardless, doesn't find the value. Will find value the second that ultimate comes back up, so long as he connects with either Scary, Kyrmi, Snoopy, or Inbound. All of those now without CC immunity. Could set up well for the Huntress of Bast, but Now you're starting to concern yourself about the damage follow-up. Do you have it? Merlin hasn't quite hit the power spike of Soul Gem just yet. You don't really have any anti-heal either. No Brawler's Beat Sticks, no Divine Ruins, so you're finding the sustain from the Terra ultimate, from Snoopy's passive, from Kyrmi's lifesteal, from Scary T's self-sustain. All right, we need anti-heal. I didn't even put it together just yet. Anti-heal needs to get stacked up. It needs to get stacked up soon. The Gilded Gladiators lived for a very long time there, and I'm starting to figure out why. Divine Ruin, it's got to be next. You finish your Soul Gem, fine. You're already most of the way there. But you need something.
But we've seen from these mid laners who are doing this triple book style of play. We don't see the third book yet from Joshy, but that's always seemed to have been the call after the Soul Gem is done. Maybe an adjustment from Joshy.
Come here.
Kyrmi picks up Oceans, throws them to everybody, and Scary D will lock him down. One more pick for the Gladiators. And damage raining from range out of Snoopy. That's Centaurus, clipping a few different players there. As Joshy has lost over a quarter of his HP. The Gladiators, there's that sustain to bring him right back up for the siege.
When the Gladiators are winning, they simply do it well. 7,000 gold up, knocking on the door of the Tier 2 and put themselves at an 8K lead. Slaaaash creates some space, but only a little.
Scary D by himself in the back line. A lot of damage coming from Elleon and Tubahh, but there's the bat out of hell to get Scary D out of dodge. The Tier 2 tower does not take a whole lot of damage there, so the assassin combo of the Gladiators will retreat towards the left side of the map. Meanwhile, the rest of the Gladiators will push their way back towards mid. Go ahead and grab a little bit of Oracle Harpy Vision, even though it's not necessary, and strip out the jungle for what's left.
Elleon's on the chase. Might catch someone slipping, but the only people he could catch are both stronger and healthier than him right now. So head back to base. A good call for the Bastet. I'm surprised the Gilded Gladiators don't commit a bit harder there. Runic Bomb in the pocket of Inbound. Maybe could have slowed down the attack speed of the structure, allowed for the dive to continue, or even just focus down that Tier 2 with the double hunter composition. Instead, a slower pace. Don't leave it up to risk. Again, this is tournament life on the line. You want to play in the SPL for a year? You want to have a salary this year? Got to win this set. It's got to start here. The Gilded Gladiators do not want to fumble. The Kaolin Wardens, though, they have to find something that they can rely on. Leon, very far behind now. Needs to stack up some items. Needs to get some of that damage available. Once he does, it's squishy targets on the side of the Gilded Gladiators. Really, it's only Inbound as the dedicated tank. Otherwise, every single individual member of the Gladiators have 100 to 0 potential for this Bastet. Just apply that ultimate, get your claws out, jump on him, and that should be enough. But that's future sight. We're talking about 4 or 5 minutes from now when he's got 2 or 3 more items. 10 minutes now, 15 minutes from now.
Who knows on that clock? For now, Scary D will take away the last tower of the left lane. Only Tier 2 and mid still stands. And Inbound going to be the leading the charge for his squad. Never mind, it's Kyrmi who goes in. Doesn't find anybody though this time. A turnaround onto the Fenrir could be huge for Elleon and Slaaaash. Kyrmi still alive though, and the ult can only connect on to Scary D from Oceans.
He's gone.
And Scary D, the dot is enough to take out Elleon. Kyrmi had to go back to base, so it's a 4v4. But there is a bracer nearby for Inbound and Dude Man Bro, and you can see the damage they can pop towards this tower and towards anyone else.
DMB's already got the Polynomicon. We've seen this game plan before. Pepper some damage in the tower. It eventually will fall. Have to be a dedicated defense.
It's the most intimidating bat that I've seen in a while from Scary D as he just hunts down 2 members under the tower, forces the Aegis out of Joshy. It opens the way for the Tier 2 for the Gladiators. No more permanent structures left standing to defend. So for the Gladiators, they will take their win, take the Gold Fury, and head back to base to spend up some of their gold. As there's 2,700 in hand for Scary D. Add a little bit more with this minion wave. That's a full item this man can go back and buy.
3,000 gold. What's he going to buy? Let's play a game, J-Mac. What do you think?
It depends if he goes back before 20.
What happens at 20? Oh, level 20. I thought you meant 20 minutes in.
No, level 20.
Oh, because we're on pace for a level a minute. Okay.
Okay, so he's going back for level 20. I was going to say if he's going back at level 20, Bluestone.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe just another pen item. Maybe
Serrated?
Crusher. Serrated?
Crusher? Oh, you got it. It's Crusher.
Oh, it is Crusher.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go, J-Mac. I play for the win. You know, I was going to say Crusher, but you had already said it. I don't like tying.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you your due benefits in that one, though.
I am just a Serrated fan as well.
Serrated's so good, dude.
7% movement speed, tons of power, some penetration. Crusher, attack speed, power, penetration. It's all that plus some dot damage.
It's yellow numbers, dude. That's what he wants. He wants to see like 100 numbers pop up on one person at a time.
Yeah, he wants Vampiric Bats to one-shot somebody, and at level 20, presumably.
Against a level 15 Jing Wei.
A level 15 Bastet. A level
He might
12
just do that.
Xing. Yeah, he's definitely got the damage for it. The Gilded Gladiators have all the momentum. Fire Giant pulled. It looks like a bait. They're not sinking damage into it. Trying to get the Kaolin Wardens to step up.
Snoopy frontlining with Scary D. I don't care about damaging the fire. It's all about the fight. Kyrmi finds a double stun, picks up Oceans, drags him into the pit, and Oceans has nowhere to go. Slaaaash charging through the back line on the cavalry, but Tubahh's been left by himself. Slaaaash lives for maybe too long.
That's one.
And he's able to get out. Elleon finds the double, but Dude Man Bro has got a double of his own, and Scary D tries to pick off Joshy. And it's just the mid and jungle left for the Wardens. Kyrmi and Snoopy out of the fight. Scary D, an immense amount of sustain and damage on this Camazotz.
Smart play there from the Kaolin Wardens. It was an overcommitment onto Oceans, who survives a good long while. Gets dragged into the back line. The Wardens say, well, if he dies and we back up, it's a 4v5 and we're already to deficits. We have to play now, and we need to play for damage. Jump on a Kyrmi, jump on a Snoopy, take him out quickly. The Gilded Gladiators, I mean, they've got such a massive lead so quickly that even this small win for the Kaolin Wardens won't amount to much. Maybe a tier 1 tower if you're lucky, and you're not lucky because Inbound is there. Prevent that global gold from going into the coffers of the Kaolin Wardens. I don't want to see the Gladiators shy away from it. I know the last one doesn't go exactly as they had wished, but regroup, stack on Fire Giant, run it back. This time, execute better.
Scary D steps up front with Inbound. It's a massive dewarding game for the Gilded Gladiators. Where Polly is up for Dude Man, so a little bit of extra damage on those autos every few moments. And even with a bracer drop down, that number is escalated even further. No answer back from the Kaolin Wardens. The Gladiators will get to take this Fire Giant for free. There's just no answer back. The Wardens, they got their win the last time around, but instead will spend their attention elsewhere, taking out some of these towers across the map.
If you can get a tier 2, that'd be massive. That's a big if and a massive ask. Won't be able to do it this time around with the back of the Gilded Gladiators. Fire Giant on all 5. Siege, incredibly strong. Double Hunter composition, 1 physical, 1 magical. Means you will make short work of these structures, especially with a Polynomicon already in the pocket of Dude Man Bro. Just have to pepper in that damage. 2 runic bombs to play with. Could desync them, have 1 for each bird that you attempt to move in towards. And you can even diversify your solo agent on the Gilded Gladiators. Probably have Scary D, act alone in mid. Much more survivable than Kyrmi. Kyrmi, a key part of that team fight, has been able to pick up Oceans every single time. Would love to see him continue to do so. And this time, the Gilded Gladiators will not be overstepping with their Fire Giant. Keep your eyes on Snoopy. Last time he got caught right here is at the front of the pack. This time, it's Bobby leading the charge. So if anybody were setting up an ambush here, they aren't. It'd be the tank that falls down. And that's very preferable. Instead, it'll be a stacked defense on the Phoenix. The fight around the Fire Giant had gone relatively well, so with the unofficial 6-man, you might prefer the Kaolin Wardens odds here rather than in that neutral territory. With that said, though, relics all back for the Gilded Gladiators. Fire Giant on all 5, and Leon, where's he going?
Well, he jumped back. Kyrmi and Scary D collapse. And Elleon has fallen one more time. 50 seconds without the jungler for the Kaolin Wardens. The Gilded Gladiators, only 1 ultimate expended during that fight, and that was Scary D's. Now a dive on the Slaaaash. The attention diverted to the mid lane as the 2 assassins run rampant. Who needs the rest of the team? Well, the Kaolin Wardens
They need them.
need a little bit of assistance to take them down, but there's 3 gone. There's 3 dead. There's 2 Phoenixes. And Dude Man and Snoopy are untouched through this entire fight.
Tubahh's
They take
backstops.
out 2 of the Phoenixes. Oceans tries to grab Snoopy, but it is too little and too late. The Supernova lands through. Oceans is gone. Tubahh is too late. And the Gilded Gladiators move on, and they will send the Kaolin Wardens packing.
The Gilded Gladiators, I suppose. I mean, they make it look easy in games 2 and 3. Game 1, it took Super Soldier Serum from Elleon to keep him afloat and keep him in it. If he's not putting up 15 kills on his own, seems like they just can't stack up. Congratulations to the Snoop Troop. You get to advance 1 more spot.
It feels like this was more than anything, not just a win in the books to keep your turn life line. It feels like this is a win to get the mental back more than anything else. Because after 3 devastating losses they'd had prior in their set before, where they went down 2-0 instantly, started out this one rough, had a major reset in game number 2, and then now coming to this 3rd game with a big win like this, maybe gives a little bit more hope to the Gladiators moving forward.
It should, and it's such a clean victory. It starts early. Besides the fumble from Scary D for first blood, it was just concise aggression, a clear strategy, jam towers, have DMB rotate through the map. From there, accumulate your gold, group up with the lead, take the team fight on neutrals, rinse, repeat. It really was just a well-executed game plan here.
With the Gilded Gladiators and their fans, you can rest easy. They're still in the tournament. They still got a long way to go. 2 more sets before they can try and battle in for their chance at the Smite Pro League. But a win here is good for them. That's it for me and Miff on the cast. Throw it over to the desk to break it down.
Unfortunately for the Kaolin Wardens, is the end of the road for them. It's a similar story to what happened up against the Xibalba Storm earlier in the weekend, where the Wardens are in it, they win game 1, they drop game 2, unable to turn things around in game 3. And we talked about potential nervous energy, right, in the player boosts going into that game. I think the read that I got, looking at the Gladiators player booth, was the sense of relief. Thank God it didn't happen again, where you drop a game 1 that you should have, this one a little bit different than the last set, but a game 1 that you had a real good chance of winning.
Yeah.
And then you end up losing the set. And so the Gladiators move on. Still a long road ahead for this team.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Again, we had said this, and I had said this. There were no easy games coming into this tournament, but it gets harder every win, any time that you move forward. And what you are looking at now, again, this one was a matchup that pushes them to the limit.
Yep.
Gladiators play really well in game number 3 to be able to close that out. Like you said, looking at what they're going to have to do tomorrow to be able to make sure that they can keep going is a pretty big deal. But for right now, I think they should be happy with it, right? I think that there were some mistakes they made yesterday. They improved those coming into today. There were some mistakes they made today. They improved those throughout the set and were able to clean up a lot. I think there's a lot of people to talk about. You know, Mifflin had kind of mentioned it as killers as they come through. Dude Man Bro able to do a lot. I think Scary D as well. Game number 1, the reason that game feels as close as it is because of Kyrmi and Scary D. Game 2, I think that they had a lot going for them top to bottom. I think the entire squad gets to step up. Game 3, you kind of get a mix, right? Again, but Kyrmi, Scary D really popping off, really stepping up for their team throughout the entire set, even in their 1 loss. So I think that as a squad, they really figured out the things that went wrong yesterday, made some improvements coming into today, improved game to game to game in this one to make sure that things continue going the same. And unfortunately for the Wardens, man, they just didn't have a way to fight back into this, right? A lot of their gods are really good if they can get ahead. Of course, that's true of most gods in the game, but there are some that if you're falling behind or if you don't have the damage numbers or the items to make it work out, you're just not going to be able to hit as hard, and unfortunately that's what they face.
I mean, think about the priority, rightfully so, that the Gladiators put towards Elleon during the ban phase. Felt like five bans and an early jungle pick from the I mean, you're taking a lot away from what was the core identity of the Kaolin Wardens throughout this event.
I think what you got to see, and I said this earlier, right? Game 1, even if everybody else on the Wardens wasn't playing incredibly well, Leon's dragging them kicking and screaming across the finish line one way or another. That was the goal there. If you go to game 2, go to game 3, like you said, they shift their priority. They ban out the Mercury. They control the jungle a lot more. You get an Awilix game that unfortunately just does not hit anywhere near as hard. You get a Bastet game that doesn't do the same kind of performance. And nothing else on the team was stepping up to overtake that lack of what the Mercury brought.
I think Gilded Gladiators, you can rest a bit now, but again, you got to keep this momentum rolling. You got to win another set and then another set to get back into the SPO. But they get it done here today, and that's what matters first and foremost. And at the forefront of a lot of that was Scary D out of the Soul Lane. Scary D standing by with J-Mac for the post-game interview.
Yeah, that's right. I got Soul Laner for the Gladiators, Scary D, with me for the post-game interview. Scary D, talk to me about the in-between of these games, because game number 1 starts out rough. There's a little bit of bounce back from you guys. Still end up falling. Talk to me about the conversations being had between games 1 and 2, and even between games 2 and 3 to kind of reset that momentum for your squad.
Yeah, so, like, can I hold it? Or? I mean, I don't care.
Right here
Anyways, it kind of felt reminiscent to how game 1 went yesterday a little bit. And we just kind of, like, remembered, like, how our mentals were after the game. So we we just kind of reeled it back. We told ourselves like we know we're better, like we're confident, and like we're just losing because we're throwing. Honestly, like I think we should have won yesterday too, but yeah, no, we just reeled it back. I don't know.
Now, kind of talk to me about this slightly different playstyle that you and Kyrmi are kind of running here. We've been seeing a little bit of the double assassin so far this weekend, whether that be the mid and jungle or the jungle and carry role. But you seem to be one of the only teams that are running the assassin over in the soul lane compared to the warriors and the guardians. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just think the sigil mitigation build's really lame, and I don't want to build it. Yeah, that's.
It's just a preference. You just don't want to be part of that group.
Yeah, I'm just different. Yep.
Now, maybe talk to me a little bit about Dudeman Bro here. I mean, he's DMB. He's a player who's been right at the top of the SEC for so long, playing with that former Eldritch Hounds team in the SEC. Talk to me about bringing him onto a squad like you have here.
Wait, who, sir?
Dudeman Bro.
Oh, my bad. You know, I love playing with Dudeman so far. He's been a really fun teammate. He's I don't know if you talk to him in person, but he's just he's a really troll personality. You guys know. Of course you guys know. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to play with him so far, and I think he's a really good player too. He's been like impressing me a lot and just doing a lot of good things for us. So yeah, I'm happy to be with him. I'm happy to be with the whole team. All of them are really good.
Yeah, you guys look real good coming out at the end of the set. Congratulations on your win. It was a tough fought battle, Scary D. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll throw back to Des. Keep it going.
This is a big turnaround from Dudeman Bro after what was a 0-kill game at the end of that Hound set.
Yep.
0-kill game on Ishtar at the beginning of this set, followed by 2 deathless games to win this set. 4-0 on the Soul in both games 2 and 3, and a necessary turnaround after what was a quiet losing game 3 yesterday and a losing game 1 here today. It's a good vibe in winning moments, it feels like, for this Gladiators team, and that's what they're going to need to keep up if they want to make a run through this lower bracket, because they run into the Aru Scorpions. So, Gore, we get to the final 4 teams at this event. We started with 10. We're down to 4. We've sent 6 home. And it's the top 4 seeded teams that have made it here. One more game in the upper bracket. Best of 5 set to send one team to the SPL. That team will then drop down to the lower right matchup you see, so they'll go right to the losers finals. And they'll await the winner of the Aru Scorpion and the Gilded Gladiators.
Yeah.
Wondered if there would be some upsets somewhere. Haven't been in the top 4. Still could be, though, at the end of this weekend.
Someone here gets 2 best of 5s as an opportunity, right? You can either do it in the first one.
That's right.
If you lose that, you get a second best of 5 to try, right? The glory of the double elim. Very similar to last year. The one thing, and you know, maybe this is just for us, but no matter what, somebody who's predicted something from our team is going to get something right. Like the top 4 teams were all the ones that we had named, so they're all there. So somebody's going to be right about something. And the question is whether or not they can be right about everything. A lot of people had, I think, a heavy weight on the wargs coming into this. I think still should. Hounds have been impressive to me, so have the Scorpions. The Gladiators, they're the team that is the most interesting to me because it feels like, I want to say I expected a lot more out of them, but I'm also really impressed with what we've gotten still. I think that, as they have said themselves, yesterday wasn't as clean as maybe they wanted. Make some mistakes towards the end, make some mistakes in terms of shot calling. Come in today with those improvements in mind, win this set, come into tomorrow even stronger. I think that's what you got. You've got 5 guys that are really good at adapting, moving forward, and applying those lessons. And so if they're going to be able to do it, it's still a hard run to do so, but I think they've been making the changes to do so.
Gore, I'm getting a little tired of talking about the 6 teams that we've got in the SPL. I think I'm ready to add a 7th. And I think it's about time we do that. We've got one more set remaining today, a best of 5 winner to the SPL set right around the corner. It's the Niflheim Wargs up against the Eldritch Hounds for a spot in the SPL coming up next.